Today's matchup. GuMiho. Solar. GSL Season 3. The final.
Usually this is the part where I say we're finally here, but not finally. This has been so fast. The semifinals are already done. It's now time to have the actual finals of the GSL Code S. A TVZ Solar versus GuMiho. I couldn't be more excited. I think this is a finals nobody really saw coming. All right, our first player to come out is GuMiho. He's been playing incredibly. Builds that we've never seen before. He could very well take this whole thing state.
Representing Cloud9, recently joined. Can he deliver them a championship in basically his debut performance?
Rose up from the bottom, made our own route. We ain't never worried, bring them all out. Sling on our side, we going up. Bring the giants out, bring the giants out, bring the giants out.
And of course, his opponent Solar, who had, we can't confirm this 100%, but probably the shortest best of 5 in GSL history. It just happened, defeating Dark 3-0.
On an incredible level right now. His first ever GSL finals.
Took him 10 years to even get to the round of 4. Now he's in the finals. Things are moving very quickly.
He's been grinding since the very beginning. It's finally paying off. He's on the way here, so close to that trophy.
All right, we're going to be doing an interview now with our 2 players. Caster Park going to the main stage. All right, we have our 2 finalists on the stage. You're a former GSL champion, GuMiho. But you're here again now. Your opponent, Solar, he was always defeated in the quarterfinals. Now he's here in the finals versus you. What do you say? If I faced him last season, I think I would have been more afraid. But I actually beat him in several matches this year, so I definitely have confidence. Certainly it wasn't an easy victory, but look, I'm not going to let my guard down. But look at Solar's pajama pants. These pants always bring the victory. Does that not intimidate you? It does scare me a bit, he says. It has weird animals on it. I think his pants helped with his mindset. Would you agree, Solar? Yes. You play all these online matches with these pants on. And you had these great results. Now you're in our studio. You're in their first finals. I didn't come into this season with high expectations. I just kind of thought I would open my mind up and look, it worked out. GuMiho's right. He defeated me so many times before. I'm ready to take him on now and get revenge. You have these godlike pants on. You have godlike confidence. It seems like you're ready to become a god of GSL. I think compared to all the other tournament finalists, I think GuMiho is definitely someone I could be comfortable against. It's not like Maru, right? He says, yeah, here's someone he can definitely take on.
저도 사실 영호에 비해서 훨씬
Well, whenever we
편해요.
compare anybody to Mario,
그래도 강민 선수
it's
입장에서는
always an easy opponent.
사실
I could say the
조성재에다가
same thing about Solar being here.
쟁쟁한 선수를 잡아내니까 지금 고병재를 만났으면 더 강력한 선수 아닙니까? 빌드 마스터인데요. 메카닉의 아버지 메버지예요.
So you defeated Dark.
8강 때도 약간 그런
Now, obviously, this player you're going up against isn't a Zerg.
근데 이번 시즌
You have to go against so many different builds. How do you feel?
거쳐면서 운이 뭔가 다 저한테 쏠리는 느낌?
He's great at creating builds, sure.
뭔가 느낌은 편안하고 좋습니다.
네.
But I have just a good feeling about this.
그럼 사실 지금 고명 선수 입장에서도 빌드 준비되는 데 너무 잘 풀리고 그리고 지금 보면은 그 빌드 준비했을 때 강민 선수 데이터는
GuMi,
어느 정도 느낌이에요?
You executed all your strategies as you prepared.
사실 이게 준비를 한다고 했을 때
You've had time to analyze Solar's play.
제일 많이 준비하고
How many games will you take off him? What will the score be?
사실
I prepared so much for the semis. I can't say I prepared as much
방영우 준비만 한 거예요?
versus Solar specifically because I thought Dark was going to advance.
이제 8강 때 했던 거를 이제
Asher Park's so funny right now.
네. 꽁 대신 당민수. 아니 진짜 방영우 준비를 했대요. 어렵게 복수해줘야죠.
Basically, GuMiho said, well, since Solar's another Zerg, maybe it's going to be fine anyways.
해가지고 서로 그냥 딱히 준비 없는 상태에서 재밌게 하면 제가 이길 것 같네요.
와 서로
Solar says same is true for me. I'm mostly focused on the semifinals.
강민 선수 생애 처음으로 10년 넘는 시간 동안에 우승 트로피를
I guess we're the same situation.
오늘 어떤 각오로 임하실 건지 팬분들 앞에서 한 말씀 그리고 고병재 선수에게 한 말씀 부탁드리겠습니다.
We've got so many fans at the studio. Any words to them before we start?
하늘이 내리신 기회인 것 같고 꼭 이 기회 잡아서 우승하고 고병재 선수도 이제
This is the very first opportunity for me to win at GSL. It's my first finals. It took me 10 years to get this far.
계속 웃어요.
So I think this is going to be my final. Or was it meant to be?
그 웃음의 그 이유 그리고 이 각오 한 말씀 그리고 강민 선수에게 한 말씀.
GuMiho, you heard what he said. What do you say to the fans here?
GSL 시즌 3 시작한다고 했을 때 걱정이 되게 많았던 건 사실이에요. 제가 이게 패치에
Before I started the season,
이게 좀
I had a lot of trepidation.
준비할 때마다.
With the new patch, I wasn't sure how I would perform on it, or if I could adapt or understand it. But I made it so this far. I don't see why I couldn't take the whole thing. I think I'm ready.
이번 시즌 최정상에 올라온 선수가 6년 만에 다시 우승 트로피를 들어올릴 것인가 아니면 생애 최초로 10년 넘은 시간 동안 GSL 도전했던 강민 선수가 우승 트로피를 최초로 올리게 될지.
Will we see GuMiho raise another trophy? It's been 6 years. Or we see Solar finally win a GSL. Let's get it started. Shake hands. All right, we're doing this. This is it.
Let's get it going,
Season
man.
3 of 2023. Finals is going down now. 2 unusual players, and one of them is going to be crowned the champion.
A season of upsets. I think if you asked anybody at the start of this season who they would expect to see in the finals, you might hear them say Hero, you might hear them say Maru, you might hear them say Dark, but GuMiho versus Solar, an unexpected matchup and a season full of unexpected matchups, unexpected results, and it should be such a thrilling match. GuMiho playing out of his mind, just joined Cloud9. He's determined to deliver a championship for his new team. He's been looking great all year. This would really be kind of the feather in his cap to finish one of the best years of his career, frankly, in 2023. It's been so incredible. Meanwhile, Solar on one of the most impressive ZBZ streaks of all time. He beat Dark, of all players, in the semifinals of a GSL, a best of 5, and I think under 20 minutes across 3
That's
games.
insane, man.
Unbelievable. Possibly the fastest best of 5 we've ever had in the GSL. He has so much momentum behind him, and now he's going up against a Terran. It's a different matchup. It's a matchup that he hasn't been quite as capable at in the past relative to the ZVZ form he is in right now, but both these players, they said they didn't have a lot of time to prepare for their finals. They're mostly focused on just getting there by defeating their semifinals opponent. So it's going to be kind of a chaotic situation, I think, with both these players coming in. Not perfect preparation and just going to have to rely on skill and really go with the flow.
Now, we know that GuMiho always has a ton of different weird and crazy builds he could do, and Solar's just always been fine at ZVT. He's always been a very resilient player, but Solar very well could have some tricks up his sleeve as well. Look, we don't have these guys hooked up to lie detector tests when we interview them. And I've seen many pro gamers kind of downplay their prep or where their mindset is when they're on stage because they don't want to give anything away, right? So we're going to have a very good idea as we get into game 1 and see what they're going to be doing. then we're really going to know what kind of match we're going to have. But this should be a good one. It's undeniable these guys have been in phenomenal shape. They were in much better condition than the standard players we're used to seeing in the finals, like your Dark, like your Maru, even Cure.
GuMiho's really shown such an incredible range. And if we go to a set number 7, Tasteless, we're going to have a Radu set station for the first time in this entire GSL.
Yeah.
It's been vetoed every single series up until this point. For that reason alone, I hope this match goes all the way to Game 7. But in any case, we should be in for a treat, a clash of styles. The resilient Solar, can he survive against really the plethora of builds? All the tricks GuMiho has up his sleeve. We're getting ready to get started. Game number 1 here on Golden Aura, GuMiho versus Solar, the GSL Season 3 Finals.
Oh, there's... Oh, nope, just a depot. Sorry.
Relax.
I'm too excited. I'm like, oh, crazy rushes are coming.
Bjorn's made us all really be on the edge
I
of
know.
our seats.
We're like, oh, why is it going out so early?
Yeah, the
Well, look,
2-Rex Reaper meta has really thrown a wrench into the early game. When we're casting this, we only have a glimpse before we go into the player cams of where the workers are moving on the map.
Yeah.
And so many times we will catch this with SCV moving onto the low ground. And yeah, finally it's going to be a 2-Rex Reaper opening here for GuMiho.
so this has probably been the most used build in TVZ by all the Terrans.
Yeah.
This season, I would say maybe Season 2 this year as well, although I think it really caught on Season 2. It looked like it was just a weird thing Beyond did, and as time has passed, it has gotten to be stronger, and I think it shows that there's a lot of different ways that you can approach it.
Yeah, and I like this build becoming standard as well here in TVZ. It's an interesting shakeup. So many more openings are viable for Terra now in this matchup because of this kind of build that Bjorn really pioneered. I remember in Season 1 of GSL this year, Bjorn coming out with the 2 barracks opening, he was doing it every single match in TVZ without fail. He was able to defend all-ins. What was happening?
Oh, Ragnarok spotted.
Yeah, shit is in the crowd. He's pretending to be shy, but no stranger to the big stage. But yeah, really, from Season 1, Bjorn pioneered this 2 barracks opening. And he said in interviews that he felt it was good enough to become standard, but in Season 1, it was really only him that was doing it. Occasionally, we would have one player try to mix it in. Oftentimes, they would falter. They would die to an all-in because they didn't have all the ins and outs on how to defend it. But over the course of this year, it's become more and more accepted among the Terrans within Korea, and for good reason. I mean, it's so good at putting on early pressure against opponents in the past. I mean, thinking back to GSLs from years bygone, you see this first opening Reaper, and more often than not, nothing ever comes of it, right? But once you add in Reapers number 2, 3, maybe even 4 and 5, should you decide to go that route, then suddenly you get into this situation on a map like Golden Aura where you can start to really shell this third base, and this can set up for a timing attack in the mid game. Should you decide to push out with a Marine follow-up because that hatchery is going to be lower on HP. You can also slow down the economic machine of the Zerg a little bit because they have to pull these queens. These are queens that are not injecting. They're not spreading creep tumors. And it's a threat that Zerg really has to respect.
It can actually kill the hatchery, and we're getting close to that moment here now. It looks like he's going to try to run up. He does drop, I think, about, 2 Reapers? That other one can't get out. Big catch there. So, maybe not with the same grace that we would have seen from Beyond. Had he pulled that off, it would have been huge. But I think, to go back to the build itself that you were talking about, State, I guess one of the reasons why this was discovered late is that the Reaper loses utility the further along the game gets. So the idea is like, well, why would it be ever worth it to make a second barracks early just to get 1 extra Reaper? But you saw back there, he almost managed to get the hatchery to 0. Now, it's not the end of the world if the build doesn't work. It's just not as ideal. But in this game, we have infrastructure coming into play for Terran. We've got the 3rd command center coming along. And Zerg is going to be able to mine from that 3rd base, no problem. So nobody really hindered, nobody hobbled as we start out Game 1.
And look at how fast this first engineering bay is for GuMiho. That's about as fast as an engineering bay as I've ever seen in this matchup. So GuMiho might be gunning for a pretty quick +1 timing here in game number 1, or maybe even 1-1 with just one engineering bay. There's a couple of different ways this could play out. An interesting idea. Hey, GuMiho always has such a clever and unique take on his opening builds.
Yeah,
One of the main reasons why he made it to this GSL Finals is the range that he's been able to deliver and also showcase over this entire year, but specifically this season with a new patch and new maps is just unbelievable. The amount of preparation it takes cannot be understated in a situation like this one where really so much of the game has been reset. You know, a couple minor tweaks to the casual observer from the outside, they might not seem like they have a big impact, but I guarantee you at this highest of levels, even the smallest of changes can be completely meta shifting. And when you add on the new map pool as well, I mean, GuMiho just really not skipping a beat.
You know, it does seem like this tournament has been the perfect storm of factors for GuMiho. You're right, new patch, bunch of new maps. It really allowed him to come in with some very inventive playstyles. Even the playstyle that GuMiho's using, which is basically taken from Beyond's Book of Plays, I would not be surprised if we see some of his own unique spins on that. The third CC is ready to be landed, so he just clears out the Overlord over here. It looks like he is going to push, although that Ling that was there to block that is instead going to run in and try to see if we can find where the third base is.
Solar over the course of this GSL and ZBT has been playing a relatively low drone count in the mid game to deal with early game aggression, and I'm wondering if that might come back to bite him at some point in this series as the stim comes through. +1 infantry weapons not quite yet completed, so GuMiho instead just buying some time, but I think there is some strategy that GuMiho could play with a fast 3cc like this, knowing that Solar's a Zerg that's more likely to cut drones around 60, maybe the mid-60s at most, because I think GuMiho moving in with this mindset knows that he's basically stopping the economic machine that is Solar, and Solar, he might be able to get a good surround with these Lings.
Oh, this is pretty ballsy by GuMiho. Does this actually math out?
He's going to be able to trade a good number of these Marines and then lift up and go into the main base.
So that was really cost efficient. I think a lot of other players would have scooped up a little bit earlier on. But he is going to be able to get both these medevacs out.
Yeah, and I think more importantly than the trade that happened on the ground there is that GuMiho, just by having his presence on the map against a player that is so focused on defense as Solar, because he's so resilient, he doesn't want to get knocked out in the mid game. He wants to get to that late game safely if he can. GuMiho knows that by doing this pressure, he is really slowing down the economy of Zerg, and now that that third base is planted at the triangle third here for GuMiho, his work count, it's almost fully caught up to Solar, which is really remarkable at this stage in the game.
Yeah, he's got to be careful. Looks like he overextended a little bit here. He drops one medevac. It was the more empty one. But I would say overall not too consequential here. Obviously, the Zerg can relax a little bit. We did have the early Liberator in this game. We didn't give it that much thought, or at least we didn't talk about it that much when it came out, but it has been a little bit of a nuisance. It's killed a couple drones here or there. Wow. As far as development goes for Zerg, the Zerg is about to be on 5 bases. The 5th base at the center left, or 9 o'clock, if you will, is going to be set up over there now.
Yeah, Solar went for a really big round of drones after that early game aggression, going all the way up to 80 now as this medevac's barely going to escape. Liberator in the main base should get deflected by the Spore Crawler. Might be barely actually survive that as GuMiho now going to start levying some pressure over here at the 9 o'clock base. There's a lot of defense ready for Solar, but these Siege Tanks on the high ground, is Solar going to commit? Yes, he will. These 1-1-lings coming in, get a nice surround on both the Siege Tanks, and although the Siege Tanks go down, it's not a very bad trade there for GuMiho, especially if he can lift up these Marines and escape to safely.
Although whenever I see a couple tanks taken out like that, I'm always a little bit more worried about the push later on.
Right.
It seems like a lot of times those tanks are the backbone that allow you to launch attacks over and over. Actually, when we had that drop, the camera shot was a little bit misleading. I just saw the Marines, and it wasn't until they scrolled down I went, oh, he's actually trying to hold this position.
Yeah, I was right there with you, but for GuMiho, I actually don't think that we have another follow-up push coming anytime soon. He went for a really fast 4th command center behind this, and so I think mostly this aggression that he is putting on the map against Solar is just to kind of keep the creep spread in check, try to keep the Zerg economy about as slow as it can be in terms of building up. It's only just now that Solar is going to reach 90 drones, whereas if he was able to happily macro back at home, he would have gotten there maybe 30 seconds faster than this point. So GuMiho just trying to keep the pressure on and catch any damage that he can because of it. But it does feel like he's really starting to gun for the late game. He has 2 more factories in production back at home, so that's when he's going to start mixing in potentially Widow Mines, add in a second factory for Siege Tank production, and even a 5th command center coming underway. So GuMiho seems like he's absolutely priming to get set up for the late game. And on Solar's side of things, he's also taking up reasonably well himself. He's not gunning for any kind of timing attack here on GuMiho's side of the map as those Marines able to catch a ton of lings. He's going up to Hive, he's getting a Lurker Den, he's really filling out his tech tree. And I think we're getting geared up for a pretty reasonable late game TVZ.
I agree 100%. I don't think this is a game that can end right away. Solar is maxing out. He's going to go to that Lurker tech. But there's really no position, no foothold on the map that Terran could take where he could try to launch any further attacks. And I think this is, one of the first big tells you'll see here if it's going to be a long game is more command centers being thrown down here. Additional infrastructure being used to create walls on the map. And I think we're going to be into one of these classic drawn-out TVZs that should go on for a while. Now, there's some Hydras and Banelings as well as Zerglings, of course, on the map. I don't know that they're going to find a spot they can break into.
I feel like if GuMiho's on 3 bases, it's almost impossible. And by the way, just to note, it is not 2 factory Siege Tank and 1 factory Widow Mine. GuMiho's actually just fully pumping Siege Tanks right now out of 3 Tech Lab factories. So that Siege Tank count is going to be ballooning very quickly. Ghost production hasn't started yet, as GuMiho's mostly focusing on getting those Siege Tanks out and also getting his upgrades. I mean, he's getting +2 vehicle weapons this early in the game, so he's clearly gunning to try and play a more late game TVZ, and he's not yet at the stage where he wants to start spending that gas on Ghost, but with his 4th base coming in, 5th base, excuse me, seems like it will get thwarted for now by Solar. And with part of the architecture on this map, actually Solar moving all the way up here into the 4th base. I was not expecting this move.
He's got to spend that supply because he's got so many Banes. You can't really sit on Banelings for too long.
Right.
Because you eventually need to use them up to make more Banelings and attacking again. So we have 50 more Zerglings being made. I would imagine the Lurkers that are going to be out here are just going to be used to defend.
Yeah, for a moment, though, I thought Solar might just be focused on denying and delaying that 5th command center for as long as possible, as Terran, they kind of struggle to get into a Siege Tank and Ghost count that they want until they have gassers number 9 and 10 up. That's why GuMiho right now is sitting at very little gas. He's only just now starting his first 3 Ghosts. And that gas count, it's very dismal. So as long as Solar can continue
Oh my God!
Oh, wow, what a catch. We barely caught the tail end
I
of
think that was 3 that were shot down.
At least 2 medevacs went down to Abducts and Hydralisks, so Solar really on top of the defense back at home.
That really takes the wind out of the sails for GuMiho. It's kind of hard to get much done. So this has been a very different game from everything else we've seen today. This is Solar quietly paving the map with creep, expanding everywhere, with very little recourse from the Terran, because I think we saw a couple of fumbled attacks early on. And now we're at the economic phase where Solar is burning through his funds to sacrifice Banes and Lings into these tanks and the rest of the position for Terran so that he can then take the rest of the minerals, rinse and repeat, and do it again and again. And, it was, years ago, but I feel like Mauro, was the first player to really figure out that what you want to do in this moment is stop attacking and just try to get your half of the map and play an exhaust game. I don't know if GuMiho is going to do that. I don't feel like GuMiho is the guy you think of as players who do that. But for now, Solar is just slamming GuMiho over and over and over here. And you can see that this position is really weakening.
Yeah, GuMiho has just not been able to get this 5th command center up, and in fact, it was an orbital that landed there for a moment, so.
Yeah, that's actually an indicator of how desperate he is. Normally you want to build a planetary or something like that over there.
He's going to bring the orbital back down, so that's going to be a hard position to defend. And by the way, just thinking back to the mid-game and how active GuMiho was on the map for those moments, he was able to keep the creep spread in check for a good portion of this game. And Solar since then has been so on top of his creep spread. It's basically reached both the 3rd and the 4th base here of GuMiho, which is just insane. That Blinding Cloud's so clutch. Gets Siege Tanks and the Ghost. Everything has to kite back, and that means these Banelings can get better connections, as well as that Siege Tank getting taken down. But these trades, besides that, they have been relatively cost efficient here for GuMiho. His Siege Tank count is absolutely massive. The Vipers haven't really been able to get too many abducts. GuMiho, does he actually spot this in the main?
I don't know if he sees this.
Oh, I don't think he has any idea.
Oh, God. All right, so this is going to be
a
big hit from inside out. He's going to try to siege up, but I think if he gets queens out, he can transfuse that.
Actually, 4 lurkers that come out.
Well, this is just a weird interaction because like he was damaging it and then he wasn't. But instead, it'll allow for another attack in over here. I think that probably Solar made the right call just stitching that once it was spotted. You know, this is one of the things about Nidus networks. We actually saw it more and more the longer the game's out, but you can just like make one in their main and they have to freak out and run back and kill it, even if you're not going to use it. And so it just softens that position again.
Yeah, it's a great multi-prong attack tactic. And
so he lifted his CC from the natural. So that's it. That should show you how bad this has gotten for GuMiho. Now, GuMiho's not dead until he's been, you know, completely wiped out and doesn't have resources. But this is getting more and more complicated as far as how he can find an out.
And I feel like GuMiho is changing direction now with the way this one is going. That orbital command, it's floating back towards the natural expansion. I'm thinking he's probably going to try and take the 5th base over there at the 3 o'clock position. Because with a high ground here, I mean, there's no army really to assist this, but this is one of the more defendable positions that you have in the Terran base for this high ground 3rd expansion. But of course, you do need to use units to properly defend it. So,
and you can see, by the way, not only was that command center destroyed, but not that much was killed by for the Zerg.
Right. It was a very cost-efficient trade there for Solar, and it was one that he desperately needed too, because economically he's not in the best situation right now. He's still sitting at 83 drones, but these trades have been so cost-inefficient for him. As we have another skirmish here in the middle of the map, and Fester trying to get in range to actually fungal the bio.
So this is actually a 2-base Terran. Just want to put that out there.
Yeah, you're right.
It actually, well, I mean, I guess it doesn't matter if there's a command center that's not mining, but like, okay, GG, that's it. That's it. That was just, you know, when you see Zergs win in macro play, it looks like that. So I don't think we're going to have GuMiho come with the same set of ideas again. I think you play a game like that and you go, damn, he is really good. You can even see GuMiho shaking his head.
I think we might still see that. I think we're almost destined to see more of that in this series, though. It just didn't quite play the way that GuMiho wanted it to on that map. But if you look at the supplies there, for the last 5 or 10 minutes, Solar had difficulty maxing. And even with his drone count at 80 plus, the trades just weren't very cost efficient. He was constantly running low on the bank. And for GuMiho, I'm hoping that he had a moment just to take that in, you know, add that into the inventory and into the calculus, because I feel like if he was able to anchor down the defense a little bit better there and potentially secure the 5th base, maybe going for the 3 o'clock position instead of the 6 o'clock position, then he could actually play that game, because he was very close to stabilizing. And if he gets to stabilization and those 9th and 10th geysers, suddenly the gas problem, it's out of the window. You can pump those ghosts, you have the siege tank counts, and you could properly play the game. But Solar, with relentless aggression there in the late game, did not let GuMiho really get up to speed.
We're going to go into map number 2 now. Solar right now with a 1-0 lead versus GuMiho.
GuMiho. Onside, Solar.
So you were talking about, you know, what GuMiho could have done better on in the late game to maybe last, but I almost feel like some of that game that we saw back there was like just some poor decisions early game, overextensions with the medevacs. We had this moment, if you remember, there was like what we thought was a drop, and then there were 2 tanks sieged up outside of, I think it was the 5th base, and it's like he just kind of failed, or maybe overextended is a better word, a couple times. And when that happens, it might not feel impactful until you let the game go on for a couple more minutes, and then it's like the Zerg is too big to fail. And those later attacks for the Zerg where they've got the Banelings and they're just spilling in there and they're blowing up planetaries, it's not so difficult for them. So I wonder if we could have a cleaner early game from GuMiho. Because, by the way, you were right. We are having the same build again. Double racks opening. how exactly is it going to be handled? And can we have a little bit of cleaner execution here from GuMiho? Oh, I think it
that might be Seed in the audience. I haven't seen him in so long.
It could be, or it's just a guy who looks like Seed. But
I think it's been maybe a decade since I've seen him.
It's been more than a decade. Oh yeah, it's been forever since I've casted his games. That's a real throwback.
Yeah. I remember way back in the day, Seed was one of my favorite players to actually talk to in Theorycraft with, back when Koreans were a little bit more reclusive in terms of sharing their strategies with foreigners.
Yeah.
When I was trying to be a pro, Seed was one of the friendliest guys around, so cool to see him in the studio if that was in fact Seed and not a doppelganger.
That's right.
that we have
it's
here,
actually his evil twin.
Oh, well, no, he would be the evil twin. He played Protoss.
Yeah, that's right.
The good twin.
The good twin plays Terran.
Yeah, Terran or Zerg. All right, so GuMiho once again opening with this 2-Rax Reaper opening. No Ling's actually out here for Solar, so he's going to have to pop a couple of Spore Crawlers here to try to keep these drones alive. Nice
Damn,
micro
Solar.
with the workers.
You know, there was a little subtle micro technique there where he started to target one drone and then flipped onto the other one.
Oh, but the second Reaper comes in and gets one of the drones.
Yep, nicely done.
Second one barely survived. And again, this goes back to this opening. You know, if it was the previous old 2022 style of Reaper opening where you just kind of do it off of one barracks and then you expand, you're never going to get that second drone. It's just not going to happen. But the tempo that you gain with the second barracks is...
Look at this setup. He's going to come in for another one.
Oh, I think he's going to get one, too.
Yeah, he gets another. Can he get 3?
This is actually a lot of damage early game.
And by the way, this is never how you see them used normally. Normally it's a scuffle around the hatchery. But uh-oh. Now he's back here with 4, by the way.
I like this opening for GuMiho behind it, going for a really fast third command center as well. Only just now throwing down that factory, so really momentum on his side. He's not going to get quite as much damage done on this hatchery, but I think you are more than happy to get, what was that, 2 or maybe even 3 drone kills. He's going to come into the main base, actually fully committing.
Yeah, he only loses 1 Reaper.
Oh, wait, this actually might go in his favor. I was kind of sus. Oh, look at that evolution chamber block.
That was crazy. He gets another kill. He's going to go right back out. He's down to 3 now, but the Queens are going to be in here to intercept. I got to say, this is a pretty remarkable Reaper tactical play early on. He got 3 drones, and I didn't see the Lings. Was it 4 Lings? Okay.
I think that's good for GuMiho. As you said, the Reapers, they tend to lose a lot of value. There's only a couple really niche kind of compositions you can go for with them. I think we saw Cure, if I'm not mistaken, in the round of 8, opt to use Reapers with a blend of some Cyclones and some Hellions in the early game in TPZ, and I might be misremembering which Terran it was that actually busted that build out. It could very well have been GuMiho as well, but outside of those niche circumstances, these Reapers really don't have very much value. So to be able to trade them out, get about half health damage done on that third hatchery. In addition, you kind of throw Solar for a loop there. He lost a lot of mining time. He lost a handful of drones. He lost a couple of larvae worth of Lings. Really good trades for GuMiho.
So I think this is a much better start. Stim's almost done. You know, we do have 1 medevac being produced, but it looks like he's going to be ready to double that up once he swaps the add-on from the factory.
Ooh.
He's getting Widow Mines actually pretty early, so maybe he wants to set up for a push over here.
Widow Mines with an armory, too. So they're not going to have... Solar's going to need detection to actually dispatch them. He's just now starting the lair. This is an
unusual timing push, and I think that we're now really understanding why tactically GuMiho came in there swinging.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He wanted to slow the Zerg down, even if it's by just a little bit. And keep in mind, when you see Marines out on the map, you're probably expecting 2 medevacs to come behind this, and for you to just basically run around sacking Lings in order to remake creep tumors that are killed.
That's right, and the lair not even complete yet. So this medevac's going to work its way into the natural expansion with 2 Widow Mines that Solar will not have detection for. There is a Spore Crawler being trained now, but this is the potential to delay mining quite a bit. GuMiho might even be able to get 2 shots off with each of these Cloak Widow Mines. I don't know why I forgot what the name of the unit was for a moment there. And also on Alcyone, one of the nice features of this map is GuMiho actually in the middle. Oh my goodness, is he going to get it?
He
wow.
Gets it. That was going to be, that was do or die right there.
That's a scary situation, man. Imagine that Widow Mine actually burrows and kills all of those drones.
Well, I'm getting a real appreciation for the very center of this map and how you can kind of wedge stuff in those narrow areas. And it's hard to actually get in there and surround it.
It's a very powerful position, and I feel like on this map it works in the favor of Terrans and Protoss players much more than Zerg. And also, by the way, working in that armory means that we can have a 2 Hellbat drop.
Yeah, when is the last time we ever casted this?
Feels like it's been a minute.
Yeah.
And I like this tactically for GuMiho. He's setting up to try and cancel the 4th hatchery with a Marine drop on the right side. Meanwhile, pressuring here in the natural expansion. It does get parried for now.
If you do a Hellbat drop, you really have to commit a lot of lings to deal with it. Another really good attack in. He's going to get about 3 drones.
GuMiho's playing a pretty good early game, I gotta say. I like this a lot. And keep in mind, he's doing this behind a 3CC opening. I am not going to sing the praises of that one, but...
Yeah. I think everybody just assumed he was going to pick it up at the last second, but he didn't.
Yeah, but considering how economically focused GuMiho's start was in this game, if he's only a handful of workers behind Solar, he's already mining from that 3rd base. He's powering up with another 4th command center even. And yes, he is trading out a couple of these units to actually get this damage done, but in terms of raw harassment, it's been pretty solid here for GuMiho. I'm liking this setup quite a bit more, and in very similar ideas to the previous game, he's now adding in another factory, 3 more barracks as 1-1, or excuse me, 2-2 gets started for the Terran. Vehicle weapons also being researched here. I think now we are kind of entering a bit of a lull in this game. Is GuMiho, he's traded out a lot of these early units for harassment, and it's going to take a while for him to really build a force that could contest the map with the Zerg.
So, I mean, it's been some pretty cool ideas from GuMiho. It doesn't seem like it's curbing Solar that much in his progress. Another connection with these Banes. Got to be careful not to lose too much to that.
Only a handful of Marines going down that time, luckily.
So this 4th command center is going to be moved out. And I think he's going to go to... I thought he was going to go to 6 o'clock. He's going to go to 9 o'clock with this.
I was also expecting him to go for 6, but I guess if you don't take the 6 o'clock base, the avenues of attack that Zerg has are very limited because of the mineral wall by that 3rd. If you just don't mine that out, then suddenly it becomes a lot easier to defend. I think this is the same reason why we see a lot of Protoss players in Protoss versus Zerg expand towards the top left side of the map while Zerg tries to take the bottom right.
Yeah, well, the fact that Zerg even took 12 o'clock means that, you know, it's going to be a base that GuMiho has at 9 o'clock that is at least accessible down there. So you see the lings come down. Nothing to punish right there, so they're going to head back.
Combat Shield's only just now finishing, by the way. Just goes to show how much GuMiho was emphasizing other techs like that armory for Burrowed Widow Mines, for Hellbats, as opposed to really this Marine composition. So just going to pick up here, try and find what damage he can. GuMiho trying to slow the creep spread as much as possible. Thinking back to game number 1, I mean, Solar's creep spread got out of control really quickly. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen Solar with creep spread as good as he had there in game 1. Luckily that one medevac gets out. I thought for sure it was dead.
Yeah, that's crazy. He actually pulls away with that. So I think we've got GuMiho in a much better spot than game 1, but it's going to be a matter of how he uses the next couple minutes.
Yeah, and it's also going to be about whether he's able to secure that 5th base, and I think he's in a better position to do it this time than before. I also like adding in a reactor factory in addition to the, I think, 2-factory siege tank production that GuMiho has. It's a bit of a better mix with drilling claws, widow mines, and also Hellbats to try to absorb some of the damage coming in from the lings. Solar's now going to be setting his eyes here on this 4th base.
Okay, not bad. A little attack in the main here. Going to draw some of this back. We do have a larger wave on the map here of GuMiho at the very bottom. Yeah, there it is. And he's been doing a pretty good job of kind of keeping this medevac away where it's going to be hard to deal with. And so he's going to get the deny on the goal. That's basically the setup for that. On the opposite side of the map, Solar's continuing to grow in the top left. We don't have any core end the game push coming from Terran yet, by the way.
No, I think this is going to be more Maru style. There's
yeah.
two more command centers immediately get thrown down. Ghost Academy as well. As GuMiho continues to pressure over here, and Solar does have the better bank, but if GuMiho is able to get up a solid enough defensive position back at home, I think it will still be hard for Solar to break, but As you said, GuMiho, although he's been very active so far this game, he really hasn't done too much to slow down the economy of Zerg. Yes, he's getting repeated denies on the gold bases. He gets it once again there.
So if you look at the income at the bottom of the screen, Solar's is getting pretty scary. He's continuing to grow on the map. Yes, GuMiho is denying him a base here or there. But at the same time, you know, we're getting to a position that could look like the last game. Remember the Hydras, the Lings, and the Banes from the, what we saw already? We could end up with a situation where he starts to try to flood whatever spot he finds to be the weakest.
And the defensive setup for GuMiho, once we get these looks back at home, they aren't quite as solid as you would hope. There's no siege tanks here, so the Baneling's just going to connect with the planetary, and Lings and Hydra should be able to clean that up.
He could
the
save
repair
it.
is just enough.
Yeah, that's actually pretty big. You really need to get that command center. So, Solar, you know, when it's finally his turn, what, we're 12 minutes and 30 seconds into the game, it's finally his turn. There was like 2% health on the command center, but GuMiho saved it. It's almost repaired back to full.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that GuMiho was able to save that, considering there were literally no units on the ground. You think that's kind of the situation where no matter what, Solar should be able to kill the planetary expansion.
Yeah.
Right? There were no siege tanks, no widow mines, no bio to kind of solidify the defense there. And now GuMiho is really going to start camping. We have even more command centers getting thrown down, building chokes across the map. That one might even be, okay, it is an orbital command for a second. I thought GuMiho was working in another planetary fortress over there, and I'm like, man, you really don't want to get attacked. But no, it will be an orbital. Eventually, this will allow the Terran to go into a lower SCB economy. There's their mule economy comes online. And look at this, the key unit counts. We have 8 ghosts for GuMiho, I believe 6 siege tanks as well. So we're starting to get all these key units, and you have to wonder, with Solar's bank, is he going to get cost-efficient enough trades? Now the Baneling's coming in, kind of into a choke. Marauder is absorbing a lot of the damage here. Blinding Cloud's on one tank and the planetary fortress, but there's enough bio to be able to clean the rest of this up.
And, you know, it was another position where there was a bit of a trade, but the foothold that Terran had was never pushed away. As Zerg, you know, immediately at the snap of a finger, maxes back out again. 3.8k minerals, 2k gas. Now, this is where we got to watch GuMiho carefully, because his minerals are hitting around 100, which means he's actually hitting the limit on what he can spend. So even if the next few attacks are clumsy, if Solar can continue to trade out and re-max and trade out and break a position, and I'm not gonna lie, man, this looks like a lot from the Zerg.
Yeah, that's a lot of units. I feel like the ghost count and the siege tank count just isn't enough to actually hold this. GuMiho's going to evacuate this base. I feel like there's just like not enough units on the ground
there
right
isn't
now
anything
for GuMiho.
over here right now. So this base down here is going to go down. He's going to go right up. Should he lift the command center, or is he just going to go for it anyways? Okay, he decides to not do it. I was going to say, you could just blow up the orbital if you wanted.
I'm surprised, though. GuMiho, before that attack, was sitting at about 80 army supply, but almost nothing is committed to defending this position over here in the bottom right.
You know, I'm having a harder time breaking this down because, yeah, he doesn't seem to have a lot, right?
But you look at the army supplies, and it's 93.
Yeah, but
it just feels like he's not committing the units to exactly the right position.
Yeah, he's not divvying them up right. So keep in mind, it's still Terran on 4 bases. Same as the last game, the Zerg's continuing to grow.
Oh no, the Ghosts go for the long snipe right there, but actually overstay their welcome as the Banelings roll up and connect.
Okay, so he's gonna go for the SCVs now. Oh, okay.
Hey, that's a lot of damage right now. Solar might have just completely broken this position.
And he runs out again. Okay, so the supply disparity is getting further and further apart. And, okay, that's it.
That's
yeah.
it.
I was gonna say, I
out.
don't think he can actually win. All right, so I gotta say, man, GuMiho needs to walk away from this opener, this play style. I think he needs to come out with something very different. He kind of did this versus Classic, but it worked the first time, where he just stayed with this I don't want to say formulaic, I don't know, this sort of boilerplate build order that he's going to do no matter what the other player is going to do. Solar just is not having a hard time with this. Solar got pretty beat up in the early part of that game and still had an easy closer at the late game. We've seen GuMiho do some weird stuff with Cyclones, some weird stuff with Mech. I think he needs to switch it up. If he loses the next 2 games, he's out. And we all know, look, if you're down 0-2 in a best of 7, you really need to win game 3. Because the difference in opportunity between 0-2 and 0-3 is huge.
Yeah, there's no margin for error if GuMiho loses any more games. And I think you're right. He has to go back to the drawing board. We need to see different openings. If he goes for a fast 3CC like that, I feel like it has to lead into some kind of 3-base all-in.
Yeah.
I don't think that he can hang right now.
GuMiho looking a little bit pensive here, shaking his head. Solar realizes he's so close. He's already halfway there in this finals to becoming a GSL champion. Can GuMiho stop him in Game 3? We're going to find out now as this GSL finals continues on.
GuMiho. Onside, Solar.
I like this from GuMiho. Command center first.
Okay, so this is what we were talking about. You need to do something radically different. And so this is a build, if you've been watching for a little bit, like the last few years, and you've kept up with most of a GSL full season, this got really popular for a while. And it turns out that, Zergs are so greedy in the early game that Terran can kind of just throw down a command center, and you're almost guaranteed to not be attacked and hurt and hit.
I feel like...
And it's going to be true in this game here, too, by the way.
I feel like if GuMiho builds up from this moment into some kind of pressure build, it's going to go a lot better for him than the previous playstyles that he opted for in Game 1 and Game 2, where he pretty much does a little bit of aggression. And in Game 1, it didn't really work that well. I think the trades in general were better for Solar in the early game. But in Game 2, it felt like GuMiho really should have been in a better position. It felt like things were kind of going his way in terms of these low committed attacks were getting damage done. They were slowing down Solar. They were killing creep.
Yeah.
It wasn't completely impactful, but it was enough that he should have been able to translate that into an effective late game. And so the fact that he wasn't able to do it, I think, means that there is some kind of hole in his play, whether it's positioning, whether it's how he's managing this transition, whether it's the unit composition. There is something that is not quite right.
It goes to show you that you can have two world-class top players, and they're good at different parts of the game.
Yeah.
Like the fact of the matter is that Morrow we could have just been wrapping up Game 1 if Morrow was in the first game or Game 2. What I'm trying to say is, like, he would have been able to last and maybe even win, but GuMiho clearly fumbles in trying to hold these really positions that look like overreach. I guess Morrow can do it, but he can't. But what I think GuMiho is good at is piercing through and doing real damage in a developing game. I think that's why he was able to kill Classic. So it seems like he kind of went for traditional stuff the first two games, and Solar just is not going to be stopped by that. I think Solar's had to deal with the likes of Morrow, Cure, Bunny, all these players who are so good at that type of game that you're really going against a player whose fitness level in a game like that is too strong. So, with the quick command center, this can give you a little bit of a lead on paper where you can try to create some damage in more of a middle point of the game. I don't know if he's going to do that here. He could also throw a third command center down. Okay, never mind. He's going to throw the third CC down. So this isn't bad, but it does mean it's going to be one of these games where both sides are going to be not interacting a lot with each other than pokes and scouting, and instead probably developing. And that makes me a little bit more worried here for GuMiho again.
I'm right there with you. I'm hoping that this third command center is the last one for a while. But this opening is looking relatively similar to what we saw in game number 2. There's a fast armory with the Widow Mines, so it's going to be a Cloaked Widow Mine drop coming through from GuMiho, and actually only that Cyclone for anti-air, so this Overlord might be able to come all the way in and
yeah,
good scouting off, but no, instead going to try and retreat. I do not think it gets away in this situation. But it's kind of hard to tell with the new Cyclone. So close.
It does not get away. Two Widow Mines are going to come up.
Oh man, Solar is really ambitious with these queens, trying to catch that. And I also love GuMiho just dropping the foot mines to go for the Overlord.
I didn't really think of that, but yeah, sure, that's fine. If you're spotted, just kill that and run away and try to go somewhere else on the map. Double eBay. Now, a second ago we were talking about we hope we don't see a fourth command center, or you were. I actually totally agree. I think maybe just stay on 3 bases and really try to win in a powering game.
Well, he has an opportunity to line this up with a 1-1 push and just do some really heavy aggression, but I'm wondering whether GuMiho is exactly that kind of player. It feels like a move that Cure would be more opting to go for than GuMiho, so I'm a little hesitant coming into this one because it is starting to mirror a little bit of what we saw from GuMiho in Game 1 and Game 2, although the opening is a bit of a shakeup.
By the way, he has not gone for any kind of crazy factory play at all. He's doing really mainline tech, Marines, medevacs. He's just going to have a much better performance. And I think we saw better moves in Game 2 early on. I think he traded out a little bit better, but I think we need to see even more of that here in Game 3.
Absolutely. I mean,
and as far as Solar goes, I don't think he has to change anything at all.
No, his style's been working perfectly.
Yeah. Okay, that was a smart move there too. Don't overcommit. Just ditch it. You only just started the base. You can cancel it and save the money.
And I think 2 more barracks just went down for GuMiho, so he's really looking to power up on these 3 bases. We'll see. I'm truly hoping that GuMiho starts to levy more pressure.
Yeah. Well, look, you can do this 3-base power up and really try to take some fights. It's when you take a 4th base that you really give the Zerg the kind of time that I think especially Solar's good with.
Yeah, I feel like... Sorry.
No, you're fine. This is just, it's been such a different series from the first 2 series, right? There it is. Okay, so that's what we were looking for, the more barracks. So, you know, Game 1 and Game 2, maybe a little bit too passive. On this map, I think a 3-base, just go for the kill, try to grind them down. Don't try to develop more. Instead, try to hinder them. Try to keep them even on bases with you. That's what he's going to do.
Yeah, I think GuMiho with this build is going to try and max on Army on 3 bases with 2-2 and try and get a timing done because that seems to be really where all things are heading. And so with the Army right now, it's about, I believe, controlling the creep spread from the Zerg, trying to keep their economy mostly in check, and setting up for that late game thing. But Solar just so on top of the scouting. As soon as those barracks go down, the Overseer flies in. And although he didn't catch all of them, he was at least able to see 1 more of those barracks coming on. And I feel like at that stage in the game, if you spot even 1 of the barracks, you know there's probably a handful more.
Sometimes Terrans will hide the 3 barracks like at the second, the natural is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, Maru does that occasionally.
Yeah, where it's like just, if I can just have like a minute or 2 where you don't see this, that's enough. Okay, so now the push is starting. So this is maybe out of the entire series, at least for GuMiho's sake, the most important part in the whole series. He needs to make this push work. He needs to get some kills. He needs to make some ground because if he doesn't, he's probably going to lose this game. He comes out, he finds some isolated queens. Solar actually saves him. That was incredible.
That transfuses immediately. Neither Baneling's getting some good connections right there. A lot of Marines went down.
Solar's like a big trapdoor spider on the map. You just get a little bit further out and he pops out and gets you.
It's like he's playing Elder Scrolls, or not Elder Scrolls, he's playing like Elden Ring or Dark Souls right now and he finds a mimic chest of the queens and he tries to kill them and then they pop out. But he's gonna get them this time. That's a lot of queens going down there for Solar. And fighting off creep is kind of hard to do in this position. So we do have an infestation pit coming down. That means that fungal growth here for Solar is pretty far off, and I think that he's ideally looking to try and pair that up with the Hydralisks and just try and find some really big connections. We have seen that in the past from Zergs, especially in this GSL now that Infestors immediately pop with 75 energy, but so far, this pressure that GuMiho is getting done, this is all with 1-1 against 1-1, by the way. 2-2 is about to finish here for the Terran, and he's going to have a very large window with an upgraded advantage to get something done, and right now he's at 9 minutes, almost maxed.
Those few Zerglings that counterattacked, that got a little bit of damage on the SCVs. It also kept the reinforcements back. I think he thought there were more Zerglings out there. So with the attacks that are coming again, you know, the problem is there are no tanks to basically shell the Banelings.
Yeah,
so once you want to get back, I mean, there's a Widow Mine, but, you know, that's not comparable to having several tanks that are out here that can shell this and whittle this down over time.
Bailing connections, again, very big, both on the top and the bottom side. So the army supply here for GuMiho starting to slow down a little bit, but the reinforcements finally coming through from that third base, and really upgrades starting to shine here for GuMiho. Solar's hanging on for dear life, 22 more Lings in production, morphing 10 more Banelings, trying to buy time. Banelings come through, some nice splits there by GuMiho, pulling the Marines back.
He's got some more Banes that are going to hatch. He has to buy a little bit of time. You can see those Banes, they just now hatch, so he can go for another dive here. Again, there's not much more creep off this. It's basically grass right below it, so he can't chase him too far, and I think GuMiho's taking advantage of that, but, well, I only see, a few more Banes. Oh, he's just going to go for the dive.
Yeah, Solar's just fully committing to this one. GuMiho, I'm expecting to lift off right here and try and reinforce.
That's it. No,
he's
Solar
down.
doesn't. Solar breaks him.
Wow.
I actually couldn't quite tell the last couple seconds. I'm like, is this right? You ever watch somebody commit to something, you're like, is this good, or is this going to lose you the game? Solar knew that exactly. He knew it perfectly. I wouldn't mind going back and looking at that in slow motion the last 10 seconds.
Yeah, I thought GuMiho for a moment there might just be able to lift off the reinforcements or the standing army and try and regroup with the units he had rallying in from the third, but the bailing connections for Solar over the past minute were just good enough, and I think a lot of that comes down to GuMiho not having any Widow Mines or Siege Tanks really to support that army. There were two mines that were in the middle of the map, but beyond that, not able to get too much done, and Solar is up 3-0 here in this best of 7.
Now, statistically, we almost never have anybody win 4 games after being down 0-3. I think we had Soulkey do it. I think versus Innovation, and that was like that was a long time ago. Doesn't mean it can't happen now, but I mean, you're seeing the same games we are. Solar looks so comfortable, so stable that it just doesn't seem like if GuMiho's behind the wheel playing Terran, there's anything that he can do. Even in that last game, those last few seconds, it's like maybe an upgrade finished, or he just identified the medevacs were like low enough on HP. They couldn't really give any sustain. But I mean, it looks like Solar might just take this whole thing.
It's starting to feel that way. GuMiho, both in Game 1 and Game 2, when he went for that macro style, trying to take 4 bases and play the late game, was not able to do it. And there were 2 different games, too. Game 1, he kind of floundered a little bit with the aggression, wasn't able to get too much done. But Game 2, I mean, the Reapers got a lot of damage done. They killed multiple drones. They got a lot of Zerglings. They forced a lot of idle time. So the early game was great. And then going into the mid game, GuMiho, he didn't get too much direct damage done, but he was able to shut down that gold expansion a couple of times. He kept the creep spread in check. It looked better, wasn't able to hang on, but guys, we're going to go to a break. Will GuMiho be able to come back in this best of 7, or will Solar be the GSL champion for the first time in his career?
똑같은 하루에서 답답함을 빼면 더 청량해질 거야. 제로처럼. 우리 없어도 되는 건 빼고 살자. 칠성사이다 제로.
하늘은 우리 향해 열려 있어. 그리고 내가
청량한 이 순간 칠성사이다로부터.
함께 서 있는 그너는 푸른
칠성사이다.
우주급 텐션 최고의 토킹 핫식스 터킨.
사람들은 말한다. 이번 용싸움 무조건 싸워야 돼. 집중해보자. 프로게이머는 피지컬이 전부라고. 빈틈없는 운영, 변수 창출을 위한 뱀픽, 상대팀에 대한 분석까지. 승부는 싸우기 전에 결정된다. 분석 완료.
상혁이 형. 배치
실패.
미친 몰입감과 다양한 경품까지.
아프리카 TV 승부 예측 서비스.
참석 대결을 시작하겠습니다.
고병 선수는 전진 투병형인 척 원병형 운영. 그러니까 상대가 벙커짓게 만들리는 것 같거든요. 와!
자, 상대방의 체제 좀 봤습니다.
나 고병재야.
야마 두 개발까지 끝났고.
이거 그리고 투전순 되면 야마토프 도망이라.
야, 이 전술 보세요. 이 전술 보세요. 세개 찍었어요. 이 위치로 들어버립니다. 경력 끌어당기고 이제 확장 하나.
고병재 압도적인 전술.
김동욱이 역전할 수 있었던 유일한 길이 이거예요. 그러니까 고병재가 무리해서 200, 200 싸움 한 번 해줬을 때 견디고 메카닉의 조합 깨졌을 때 복구전에 한번 밀어치는 거. 이 전술
전술
불 끄죠.
전술 해결하네요.
전술만 아니었어도.
해결사 전술이 나왔습니다.
이제 안 되네요.
지지 3세트를 시작하겠습니다.
강영호 선수가 이거 여왕 태워서 그냥 올인할 생각 같은데. 정보가 없어요. 내려오는 정보를 이제 알았어요.
자, 창대 방패자의 싸움이거든요.
한 번만 버티면 되는데. 한 번만 버티면 되는데. 그 와중에 앞마당에 여왕 두 개 들어가는 것도 미친 판단인데.
그렇죠. 막아내고 있습니다만 지금 저그는 계속 견제 이어지고 여기 세기 끌어내고 들어온 타이밍에 난전 만드네요.
가능성도 있지만 저건 하이리스크 하이리턴.
이거 들어와요?
엘리전이죠.
이거 귀환도 없어요.
좀 들어버렸습니다. 지금 싸움 열어요.
이미 6시에서 귀환을 한번 썼기 때문에 귀환 하면
상대 조합 각기 위쪽 올라갑니다.
네, 이 병력을 완전히 잡아먹으면 다시 출발해도 된다는 건데 그래서 눈치채고 도주하는 박용호 선수죠.
이거밖에 없어요. 김도훈은 6시 이미 깨졌고요. 템플도 없고요. 이거 지금 있는 병력 그대로 끝내야 되는데
들어가 싸우는데요.
이건 박영호 선수의 추가 병력이 나오면서
전부 다 지금 건물 다 깼을 텐데요.
엘리전으로 사강에 가겠네요.
그래도
박용호 선수 입장에선
지뢰
3세트 대결을 시작하겠습니다.
박민 선수가 번식지 타이밍을 늦추면서 정말 광물 위주의 부하장 단위의 발전은 미리 잘 준비해뒀죠. 업도 빠르고.
박민수가 힘 한번 꽉 주고 멀티지역 쪽에 정면 싸움 걸면 이거 김도욱 버티기 좀 힘들어 보이는데요.
그렇죠.
자, 11시로 들어가면서 여기 자원줄까지 하나 깹니다.
네.
그러면서 이제 나와서니 몰아치기 시작하는데요.
1위가 뭘 못해주고 있었어요. 싸우지 않고 자원 수급을 시도하면서 지기로 곳이 막 떨어졌어야 누적 자원 이제 생겨서 저구가 이제 뭐 소모전할 수 있는 건데
이런 싸움은 저구가 원하는 소모전 양상이잖아요.
그렇죠.
이건 6시 지역 싸움에서 이겼다는 거예요. 다시 한번 느끼지만 저지선이 아예 없습니다. 저구가 위아래로 몰아붙임에 있어서 테란이 이쪽 라인은 내가 버틸 수 있어라는 확신이 없어요.
네. 첫 4강에 도전하는 강민 선수가
그렇죠. 이전에도 패자되는 사람은 강민수거든요.
네.
불굴의 강민수 될 수 있어요.
단단함을 넘어서
이거지잖아.
지지! 이사 대결이 시작하겠습니다.
야, 재밌는 거
하고 있어요.
준비했습니다. 정말
오늘
재밌는 거.
판짝이
네.
시작부터 말씀드렸던 그 판짝이 나옵니다.
뭔가 이상하다고 생각한 것 같아요.
계속 두드려요 지금.
내버리지면 안
이거
되겠다.
봐야 되겠다. 뭐지?
갈 생각이 분명 있어 보이는데. 아, 폭풍아.
네. 자 이제 봤어요. 이제
그렇죠.
봤어요. 이제 봐요.
와. 피할 수 있나요?
오.
이거 태우는 컨트롤을 해주려고 할 때 1점차 당할 수도 있어요. 그렇죠.
네. 오. 다 터져요.
이 이제 눌러줄 수 있을 것
와와와
같습니다.
김도.
이거 지금 프로토스 손실
야.
유닛 있나요?
폭풍의 시대. 야 역시 판짝에.
이거 또 파괴하고 도망을 줬어요.
종족 그 자체. 종족기.
영우야, 너가 뭘 할 수 있는데?
폭풍함으로 가서님 손해 공연하고 있어요. 자 들어가는 상황에서 여기 추적자로.
이거 앞전면 방어한번하면 다시 한번 물어보는 거죠. 너가
네,
여기서 뭘 할 수 있는데?
Today's matchup. GuMiho, Solar, GSL Season 3, the final.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for waiting. What a situation we've got on our hands. It's a 3-0 lead here for Solar. And, you know, not all wins are built the same, but these wins look really scary. These are real wins on late-game competency and understanding how to hold the Terran off. And, you know, that's kind of how you win TVZ, is you push and kill the Zerg. You come through, you either accumulate damage over time and do a killing blow, or you just get a killing blow outright. Or you go into late game, turtle and survive, and the Zerg runs out of money. GuMiho does not seem to be capable right now of doing any of those to Solar.
Especially the late game TVZ seems to be the weakest point right now for GuMiho. Game 1 and Game 2, he tried 2 different ways of getting there. Both times was not able to do it. And if you can't win a late game TVZ, I'm not sure he's going to be able to complete the reverse sweep. I think if he wants to win 4 games, one of those is probably going to go to the late game. And as of yet, he hasn't been able to make it happen. So I am concerned for
he looks
his position
very
now.
Incomplete for the time being, and I don't know what can be done to fix that. Now, let's say we kind of did identify this a little bit earlier on in the series in Game 2, where I think we're doing the Hot 6 promotion here right now.
Here, Kaiser Park.
This is, I think they're showing that on camera for us. But, yeah, normally you need to rotate between different styles and build orders, especially in a best of 7, in order to make it so that your opponent can't play catch-up. He can't get used to your style and adapt to it. And instead, it seems like GuMiho just kind of leaned in to an approach that, frankly, Solar is very, very good at dealing with. And again, we're in Korea where there's several good Terrans. Historically, this has been the best Terran region with Maru. And so Solar's kind of used to that. GuMiho, a player who had a very different approach and managed to beat many other great players in this tournament, is now hitting a wall.
I feel also coming into this best of 7, if we just take a step back, if you didn't look at the player's name, you wouldn't think that this is GuMiho. It feels like he's not really playing to his strengths as a player. When I think of GuMiho, at least in TVZ, I think of Battlecruiser rushes. I think of Cyclone Hellion openings into some kind of mid-game. I think of very unique builds that are going to throw the Zerg off and lead to a weird situation where the Zerg doesn't have a lot of practice, but GuMiho has completely mapped out. And so far, set 1, set 2, set 3 kind of cookie-cutter TVZ builds, and none of them have really been able to pan out for GuMiho. So I'm hoping he's been able to take this break after Game 3 to reset, collect himself, bring something new to the table, because now it is do or die. If GuMiho doesn't win the next 4 maps, Solar is going to be the GSL champion.
GuMiho.
Even not mech, even something like proxy racks or something like that would be acceptable here. But something different, right?
Onside, Solar.
Think of these 4 games. one of them absolutely has to be Proxy Rex. I don't think that GuMiho, especially showing what he showed in the first 3 games of this best of 7, quite has the range in TBZ right now to come through with so many different builds. Solar GSL winner, looking for 2023. Would love to see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just real quick, because we've been talking so much about GuMiho. This is going to be huge if Solar wins. 10 years. I mean, you know, he's devoted a decade to trying to win a GSL. I guess maybe even more than a decade. We're about 12 or 13 years old now. And this might be it, and it's really looking like it, unless GuMiho can pull a rabbit out of his hat. Now, just to start this off, we have the barracks on the low ground like we did before, but I don't see a second barracks there. Instead, there's a refinery that's been taken in orbital as well, and so he's going to make one Reaper and come out. So, on the surface, in the initial few interactions we're going to have on the map, it's possible Solar assumes this is the same thing, but it is an alteration of it. And what is he going to make second here?
Should be a factory.
Factory,
down,
okay.
Yeah. So the first Reaper coming across the map should hit at the timing that, as you said, is going to telegraph that this is the low ground expansion build. But I feel like the lack of the Reaper follow-up should tell Solar very quickly this is going to be some kind of deviation. So we'll see what GuMiho is able to get done with this first Reaper. Back at home, that barracks now producing a reactor, and I'm hoping this is going to be for Cyclones for GuMiho, as it seems like he, of all players here in Korea, has the best grasp on how to utilize and get value out of this new Cyclone unit, as this Reaper actually almost gets a drone.
Yeah, this is actually quite a crazy amount of damage. He hasn't got any kills yet.
He might get one. He's getting very close. It's expensive, by the way, building all those spore crawlers. Oh, no.
Misclicked it. Misclicked it.
Yeah, the pathing there.
Yeah. So he sent it right back up there. You could see a grimace on GuMiho's face. It's like, well, now he doesn't even have the ability to scout or create pressure.
Yeah, and it's Hellions, too, as the follow-up.
Yeah, he just tilted his head big.
Even having one Reaper with these Hellions adds a lot of survivability to the composition. Those units synergize very well in the early game. And even beyond that, I'm worried about what that kind of error might have on his mental state right now up against the ropes where he needs to win every single game. Because it's easy to write that off as something minor, but it's an unforced error that, frankly...
Well, when everything is down and out and you make that's not a decision error, that's a misclick. But, you know, when your tensions are this high, it's hard to click on the mini-map and make things like that go the way you want them to. So those Hellions are going to kill off that Zergling, and he's going to try to put some pressure on here. I doubt we're going to see him hyper commit and try to run in. I think he's going to try to roam around on the outside. There's another misclick.
No.
That's another.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
this
he's
damage...
actually just. It's not every day you could just see in the way units are moving that somebody's not playing well, but this seems to be one of those games.
You know, just think of the way the momentum has been shifting so far over the course of this series. In Game 1 and Game 2, GuMiho opted to go for a late-game style of TBZ with just a little bit of aggression early on, and Solar was able to, frankly, manhandle him. In Game 1, it was kind of close. Solar was low on money for quite a while and was really struggling to finally put a dent in the armor of GuMiho, and eventually was able to make it happen. But in Game number 2, it felt like almost a rout. Despite GuMiho having a healthy army supply, just was frequently caught out of position, perhaps wasn't able to navigate his army composition quite as well as he would have hoped. Whereas Solar was just firing on all cylinders. It seems like every single game that he's playing in this series, and even today, he's just getting stronger and stronger. This guy has not lost a single map so far today.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
He 3-0'd Dark in possibly under 20 minutes. And now he's up 3-0 against GuMiho. I mean, he is on fire.
Yeah, it's a good point. He's looking untouchable. By the way, what GuMiho's doing, and this is not me being critical of him, it's an older approach. 4 Hellions roaming around the map and then a medevac. The 1 Reaper even to come out and do minimal scouting. He's not going to do a crazy build state. He's going to stick to one of these openers that he feels like he knows pretty well and that he can hang on with. Clearly today, GuMiho doesn't feel like he can do these crazy mech builds or anything like that when it matters most.
And part of that is also having to play the semifinals and the finals for this one. We were pondering during or after the interview about whether the players were really sharing their full hand when they said that coming into today they prepared for the semifinals but not for the finals. But looking at GuMiho's play now, as someone who has the reputation of being able to cook up the dirtiest and most creative of builds in pretty much every single matchup, it's been kind of a vanilla approach for him that Solar is just so good at TVZ, he hasn't really been able to find a way to break the Zerg, and it is kind of a stylistic mismatch in that Solar is so resilient in the mid game. He's very comfortable playing a low drone count style and just parrying the attacks of the Terran up until he gets to a point where he can safely macro out of it, which means that the windows where GuMiho has to try and get game-ending damage done are very small. They're very hard to find. And in theory, that should mean that because Solar is more prone to playing these lone drone styles, if GuMiho is able to navigate into a late game where he can safely macro up on 4 bases and eventually take a 5th, that should favor him. But it hasn't so far this series. He lost game 1 and game 2 in that way, so it's going to have to be a little bit of a change of pace here for GuMiho, and I'm liking how aggressive he's getting with these drops. This is a little bit more bold than we saw him go for, although even one of the medevacs not dropping any of the Marines.
I do feel like there's a reason why this is an older approach, is I think we've seen this song and dance before. Oop, he almost leaves that one Marine there, another little subtlety of maybe him being a little bit nervous. There's a lot of lings being made, by the way. The Hydra Den is going to come down here. The Zerg's expanding towards the top left side of the minimap.
Yeah, Solar now took at the 4th base. 1-1 completed here for GuMiho. Solar just now completing +1 ground armor. Melee attack a little ways off. Solar actually confident enough to push off of creep. It's rare that you see Banelings chasing this far. Oh, those Marines weren't even in the medevac.
Yeah, what just happened back there? That was a bizarre look.
I think he might have messed up the shift click.
Yeah, drop on the minimap or something, and then I don't know. I can't explain what I just saw there. Something didn't make sense.
Mechanically, things just feel a little bit shaky for GuMiho.
Yeah, things feel a little rocky right now. I think he might. No, I don't know that he can even get a deny on this. Okay, he does. Nicely done. Yeah, but well not done. Without sacrifice. Loses a couple Marines.
I think it's okay, though. GuMiho, although the mechanics haven't been quite as crisp in this game so far, it's not as if he's making any glaring errors, and even some of these trades have been quite cost-efficient for him. So coming now into this top left base, most of Solar's army has been kind of sequestered over the bottom right side of the map, trying to defend that triangle third. So GuMiho, actually with his multi-prong attack, getting a lot of damage done now. I like this. He even gets the kill. No cancel. Lifts up the Marines.
Hold up.
These are the plays that GuMiho's been needing.
That was just, you know, the blink of an eye, but suddenly GuMiho did all the right moves there. That was exactly what we needed to see.
Yeah, this is the TBZ play that we know GuMiho is capable of coming into this finals. This is what we expected to see from him. Is even if he does play these styles, you know, GuMiho, he is a top player. He doesn't always need to rely on having unique and creative builds. Mechanically, he is very sound. It just felt like in game 1, all the way through game number 3, he wasn't really able to make it happen. But just small errors like this one, like losing bunches of Marines and even the Hydras picking off medevacs.
I mean, it's really a matter of agility. These moments, like, can you pick up, can you attack it, can you pick up and run back out? But look, he had 2 big wins. He killed 2 bases on different sides of the map. Solar is still very much a threat in this game, but curbing growth like that is going to make it tough for Solar later on.
And with GuMiho right now powering up, adding 3 more barracks in. 2-2 underway. There should be a sizable window where GuMiho will have the upgrade advantage and could probably get a lot of damage done. Solar now coming into this 3rd base. Not too much to defend besides this sieging on the high ground, so Baneling's probably going to connect with a lot of SCVs.
Oh!
Yeah, that's a meaty connection.
Yeah, and I think he's not done. Oh, he can cut him off to the pass, maybe?
Oh, I got a mineral walk those.
Okay, so that was 16 workers killed. This makes Solar with a lot more workers. He just has to fill those in with the bases.
Oh, okay, he's unsieged.
Okay, I feel like, I don't even know if that was the right move there for Solar to run away. I think he wasn't sure how many more tanks were there, but it was just those 2 tanks. I think that Solar could have taken that fight, but I understand the reflex.
Yeah.
You enter an area, you see tanks, you just go, oh no, we got to run back.
Especially that far off creep.
Because when you see the tanks out like that, that's when you have to be the most careful with this. GuMiho's going to dive in, but there's going to be a flank. He's going to hit from 2 different sides.
Marine stutter step microing back. Baneling's looking for big connections right here.
He flattens it.
Yeah, he has to lift up, and at the end of the day, GuMiho still even an army supply here with Solar, does have this upgrade advantage, should be able to deny the gold base for here in the center of the map, and his army right now, it feels like it's basically pure Marine on the map. He has 5 siege tanks at home, 4 defense, building another command center, starting 3-3 immediately once 2-2 is done. But Solar's really starting to fill out his tech tree. He's got Vipers underway. The critical, not critical, but the high-tech unit count for GuMiho is severely lacking right now. It's really just these Marines, and while they're very strong off-creep in situations like this one, it's kind of a dangerous dance because just a couple of Baneling connections can completely topple this army here for Terran.
Okay, so he forces a cancel again. So, you know, Solar's in a, he's like, I want to be careful with how I say this. He's not in a, he's not dead, but he needs more growth. And so with the way that Solar handles his army, he needs to trade really well if he's going to trade.
Yeah, GuMiho's been doing a really good job of denying additional bases here for Solar. Solar's been on a 4-base economy for the past couple of minutes, and generally speaking, Zerg wants to be ahead on bases, and Solar even down at 77 drones, by the way. I didn't realize the drone count was quite so low. So things boding actually quite well for GuMiho. I got to say, even though there have been some hiccups, he's looking much more solid here in this macro TBZ than the games we've seen from him earlier. Throwing down 4 more command centers, Ghost Academy now underway. Whereas Solar's economy is the most stunted it has been this entire series.
Yeah, and I think GuMiho is being really patient. He's kind of like letting the clock run and saying, where are you going to go next? And then when Solar says, I'm going here, GuMiho punishes.
Yeah, it's smart play from GuMiho.
And this is maybe the best patience game I've seen from GuMiho, and he's only able to do it because of that win we had maybe 4 or 5 minutes ago where he got the 2 bases killed off.
Yeah, slowing down the macro tempo there for Zerg. Really paying a lot of dividends now as Solar finally able to start saturating the triangle third base, which is his 5th expansion. And while GuMiho in the middle of the map continuing to try and cut off the creep spread. By the way, Solar, when I think of Zergs with really good creep spread, Solar, I don't think of him as being one of the top Zergs in terms of creep. It's always been good, but what we're seeing from him today in the finals has just been so exceptional.
Yeah.
He is absolutely on top of it. I mean, just think of how many tumors GuMiho has killed during this game, and still Solar is slowly working his way across the map. Now that planetary does get canceled.
Kind of a funny attack there.
Oh, be careful. Those Baneling connections can be very dangerous. A nice pickup there by GuMiho. Able to evacuate out of that situation. Good split here with the medevacs as well.
I think Zerg might be able to breach this down here. He's so far off creep, this is kind of crazy to see.
Yeah, really this bottom right quadrant of the map is the only location where Solar has been completely stunted in terms of...
Oh, does he see it?
Creep spread.
Does he see it?
I'm not sure he does.
Oh, he does, he does. He's going to kill it in time. Well, actually, no, he's not going to kill that.
Done. Yeah, it's just SCVs.
It's going to spill out. He's got another attack over here in the front.
And GuMiho's near max, so the reinforcements might not even really be that much, but there's only a couple of links coming out of this Nidus, so kind of a false alarm there.
Yeah, I think he realizes it's probably not safe to commit an army in there. It gets stuck in there if he kills it off.
We're actually going to see some nukes coming out from GuMiho. Not really what I expected in this situation. But I suppose once you get that 5th base up, you really can start to afford things such as this. But my question is, with nukes as an option here for GuMiho, really, where are you going to be able to make that work?
Watching this fight with the Hydra and the tank, I'm like, so which one actually wins, the Siege tank or the Hydralisk? Yeah, no, it's been a funny game. Zerg has not gotten to where they need to be, but I think he's still looking pretty good. He's got a lot of minerals and gas bank because I think when GuMiho stopped budging, so did Solar. Solar's just kind of moving out on the map. So the pace of this is very different. But this is definitely, you know, the best late game we've seen here from GuMiho.
Yeah, and it all comes back to him shutting down those bases and really slowing down the economy of Solar. And Solar once again going to try and push off creep, but these Marines, they can kite back. There's no focal growth. There's not really much to slow this away, so it's going to be a favorable trade here for GuMiho.
Yeah, definitely a poor attack there. You know, it's a little bit weird when the Zerg gets maxed out and they don't have anywhere to attack. It's super uncomfortable.
Cloak saving those ghosts.
Yeah, nicely done.
GuMiho, with really a minimal bank right now, has to be very cost efficient, has to be very careful about losing any key units such as those ghosts.
Yeah, don't be misled by the fact the supplies are maxed out. GuMiho has 350 minerals in the bank. Solar was at 2K a little bit ago.
Yeah, and the gas is not going to be a bottleneck for Solar for the foreseeable future here.
Right.
As he's really breaking that out. Now, a couple of queens here in the middle of the map are getting taken down. Will make it easier for GuMiho to control the creep spread from this moment forward. Siege tanks. I'm liking the arc that GuMiho has set up here. But defensively, this is a much better game than we've seen from him earlier on in the series.
Yeah, he's coming forward with these Banelings. Banelings hitting tanks right now.
Yeah, these are not cost-efficient trades for Solar. I mean, thinking back to game number 1, Solar barely was able to edge out GuMiho in terms of the cost efficiency because of his economy being so much greater. But was finally able to really stop GuMiho in his tracks with a couple of big Baneling attacks on planetary fortresses. But I don't think he's going to get the same chance here. And GuMiho's been able to safely establish a 5th base for longer than he has this entire series.
Yeah, and we see him coming down now to try to fight this. I don't know that he can take this out. Banelings are morphing over in this area. Zerg keeps inching in, but never having enough.
Yeah, it's been a pretty good trade here for GuMiho yet again. I gotta say, I was kind of doubting GuMiho going for this macro TVZ once more after getting shut down both in game 1 and game 2, but he's really starting to play very well now.
I think we're getting close to the end here. I think GuMiho's going to win, which is crazy.
Yeah, it is starting to feel that way. Solar simply cannot secure another base. Part of the architecture of this map is the next expansion for the Zerg has to be in the most vulnerable position. These gold, half blue bases that are not in a corner. They're basically in the middle of the map, one in the top left, one in the bottom right. And that makes it really easy for GuMiho to move forward with the siege tank line behind and continually shut down the economic growth of the Zerg. But fungal growth there on the medevacs. This is a big pickup actually for Solar.
Yeah,
but he's only able to get one.
Okay, so look, he's going to get this command center. Not bad. But Terran has a lot of money to spend here. This may be a pretty quiet ending to this game as Zerg kind of fizzles out.
And this is really the late game TVZ that we needed to see GuMiho play in game 1 and game 2. And finally here in game number 4 with his tournament life on the line, he's able to bust it out.
It's really impressive. I mean, he's done a really good job playing this. He's played the map extremely well. Now, don't count Solar out yet. He did deny that base over the top left. He could try to come down here and maybe just force a push. Big kill on the hatchery, by the way.
I think as long as GuMiho continues to play this game where he just does not allow Solar to take another expansion, eventually Solar is just going to be completely broke. I think he has maybe 2 fully mining bases right now, which is the expansion at 11 o'clock and the one over there at 3 o'clock. And beyond that...
Oh my god, he killed another one.
And not getting a cancel either. That's expensive at this stage in the game. Solar actually can't afford a max at this point.
Yeah. He's going to try to, well, he's going to kill that hatchery off again. I don't know how many more blows Solar could take, but I think he's in serious trouble.
I mean,
we've just seen like 3 hatcheries denied in the last, minute or two.
Look at that cost efficiency. That's what, 15,000 more resource cost efficiency for Terran. GuMiho's really played a masterful mid and late game here.
Yeah, he just spreads everything out. He's going to get another one. Okay, that one's at least canceled.
He gets a Nidus Worm.
Yeah, he was trying to set up a Nidus network between the 2 locations because it's just been Terran seesawing from the left side of the map to the right side of the map.
Yeah, and I love how GuMiho was able to identify his win condition so early here and just completely play for it. He's like, you know what, I don't need to kill a Zerg. I just need to stop them from taking these additional bases. And if I can succeed in doing that, the game is won. And so he's not overextending. He's taking great trades. I mean, this position right here with the Chokes, Liberator to Siege Tanks is honestly nasty.
Yeah,
it is so hard to attack into this spot.
Another little attack in here.
That is clear and creep, making it even harder for Solar to get on the map. And Solar right now, he's sitting at 5K gas. I don't think that mineral income is really going to grow at all from this position here for Solar. He's really starting to get spread thin. And even these hatcheries getting killed and canceled repeatedly is kind of burning a hole in his wallet.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is all GuMiho has to do. It's kind of a slow, quiet game.
Oh, fumble on the Ghosts!
Okay, that's pretty big. Can he get those kills? Can he get those to the connect? He does.
That gets a lot of the medevacs as well. Unfortunately for Solar, although that was a fantastic move.
He's just never going to get up this area with these autumn-colored trees.
Yeah.
He just can't. That position is too strong. He's going to try to come in again and break it. I think he can get the tank this time. Okay, not bad.
Yeah, these trades are cost efficient here for Solar, but the problem is that now GuMiho's the player that's been able to establish the bank, so he's going to be able to remax on Ghosts. He has 18 siege tanks right now. Actually, GuMiho's army is 18 siege tanks and like 10 other units, which is kind of unbelievable.
It's kind of a funny game. He's going to send this one tank out. There is a big attack on the far left. I think we're going to, yeah, here it is.
Oh, I think it's his Solar's Hail Mary play, but
well,
I don't know if he's going to be able to break this.
He kills a lot of workers. He drives that away. Keep in mind, the Terran also does need to grow eventually. Well, actually, I guess he's got that position just south of here.
He has been able to take the half-gold base over here at the bottom right. But Solar, with that win on the top left, might actually be able to get a hatchery up. And if Solar can get his mineral economy back online, there is
a world.
There is a world where he can come back in this game. Do not write him off just yet, because GuMiho right now, there have been a couple of very cost-inefficient trades. There's a chance he overextends.
And he puts his Nidus right in plain sight. Oh, there's a tank here.
It's very smart.
He can't get that to finish. But there's so many. Wait,
oh
what?
my God! Oh,
wait
wow.
a minute. Were those stuck up there?
Yeah, 6 siege tanks stuck.
What?
Happens to the best of us.
He really is nervous. He had a bunch of stuff stuck in his base.
That was a massive fungal growth, by the way. Gets a ton of bio right there, but I do feel like Solar is still running out of steam. So many siege tanks.
This is so funny. Yeah, those got stuck in his main. So that's probably why it looked so funny. It seemed like he had a lot in supply, but and you were saying he had a bunch of tanks, and I'm thinking, I don't see that many tanks at all.
Yeah, I just assumed he had like the most conservative spread of siege tanks of all time.
Yeah.
Back at home, but
no,
no,
Solar's going to see this and be like, is he switching into mech now? Like,
he basically is, yeah. I mean, honestly, like the unsieged tanks can probably take this fight.
Yeah.
If GuMiho just A-moves it.
Well, he's got lurkers hitting this base up here, and there's something happening south of this position.
Oh, lurkers actually down there too. Not interfering with the mining just that much. As GuMiho with a superior range on the siege tank should finally be able to dispatch those lurkers, but
what a grindy game.
Solar, I have to say, has been playing from really a tough losing position for the past like 5, almost 10 minutes.
Oh my God.
He's actually making a game of it.
It's kind of remarkable.
Fight.
Lurkers versus tanks.
Lurkers versus unsieged tanks. I guess unsieged tanks just win this.
Yeah, I was going to say, have we seen this interaction? I think well, this has been one of the strangest games I've ever casted.
It's a bizarre one.
It's like super scrappy. Both sides actually don't have that much money.
23
Solar has
tanks.
more workers. He's going to run out, though, but he does have the gold base, so the minerals are going to come in, and keep in mind that Solar has more gas. So this isn't over. You know, this many tanks doesn't do that much if you don't have any kind of Marines, you don't have any kind of meat with them to protect them. It also does explain why, supply-wise, the game looked bizarre, where Terran couldn't seem to get anything done.
Yeah, there's a lot of Ghosts and Hellions now entering the field, so there should be some support here for the siege tanks, but you know, the mineral economy has been so sparse for Solar that he only has 26 lings on the map. He has 11 Hydras. And I feel like once GuMiho really entrenches this position, all right, Solar coming in, his last attack, that is so many siege tanks.
He's got some blinding clouds coming down, but it's going to be it. GG, GuMiho takes game one. A crazy, honestly, maybe a little bit sloppy game at moments, but a win is a win regardless.
Yeah,
kind of a dramatic, long game.
You could really feel, though, that
you can feel the nerves.
He is not playing at his best. He's not playing at the potential. He's not playing at the ceiling that we all know he has. And part of that is just because of the momentum that Solar has established in this series. And you got to think, GuMiho in the back of his mind when he's playing that game 4, it's do or die. He does not want to get swept. But he's going into a late game when he already lost 2 late games against Solar already in this series. So that was a very tough position for GuMiho to fight from, and although he was able to pick up the win, I gotta say, I'm a little bit scared for him still in these late game situations because that was not perfectly orchestrated. I feel like the composition was a little bit too siege tank heavy, even there at the end with all the siege tanks bottlenecked in the main base. Often when you see players like Maru go for this, there's a lot more emphasis on Ghost. There's usually a couple of Widow Mines that are trickled in.
Right.
And GuMiho, it feels like the composition just isn't quite as efficient as it could possibly be, but still he was able to make it work there on Hecate. We're going to Solar's home map now. Solaris.
Right. Let's do it, guys. This is yet another game. GuMiho trying to do the reverse sweep against Solar, who's up 3-0. 3-1 now, sorry.
GuMiho. Onside, Solar.
So, yeah, that last game, I mean, I'm happy for GuMiho that he won, but, you know, from A to Z, we saw these really shaky moments. We saw misclicks with the Reaper early on, mistakes with the Hellion, occasionally messy drops. We even saw what I think was about 8 to 9 tanks that got stuck inside of his base, and he did not know about that for, I want to say, like 7 or 8 minutes. And it was funny because from our perspective and from you guys at home or in the studio, it looked weird, right? Because the supplies seemed the same, but like Terran didn't have anything. There just didn't seem to be much presence, and then we figure out why. It's because there's these things stuck that are all backed up just due to building placement. And by the way, bad building placement usually a sign of anxiety in a match.
Yeah, a little bit of jitters there for GuMiho. Maybe getting inside of his head a little bit here against Solar. And you know, now we have potentially 3 games left in this best of 7 if GuMiho is able to make it all the way to that match 7. And so far, he really hasn't been mixing it up. Game 1, Game 2, Game 4, remarkably similar. He was able to win one of those games, the most recent one, but really just a kind of slow pressure build. Not a lot of commitment from GuMiho to start things off in the early and mid game into a rapid transition into what ideally was going to be Ghost Mech, but felt like it wasn't quite as well navigated as we've seen players like Maru or Cure do those transitions, which is concerning. But again, with 3 games left, you got to think that at some point, GuMiho's going to come out with something crazy. I keep waiting for him to throw down.
I don't know, man. I think he might not. I'm in 100% agreement with you that I think he should, but he's not for some reason. In fact, he's doing the same thing we saw in the first 3 games. So there's, got to be a reason for this. GuMiho knows himself better than, we could ever know him. But yeah, I'm surprised. I'm surprised that he's not doing something crazier. By the way, Solar has hit the drone here. Good surround, gets that first Reaper. He's going to be able to get this drone.
Oh, actually did not get it.
Yeah.
Solar made a ton of links, by the way, more than we usually see. I think was hoping to try and catch all of those Reapers as he's now going to take that 3rd expansion over there at the linear 3rd. GuMiho can start shelling that with these Reaper shots. But yeah, I just keep going back to the openings here for GuMiho, and when I think of GuMiho, I think of the Terran with the most range of all Terrans of all time in every single matchup, and it's not really what he's been showcasing here. And
it was literally in the graphic for him coming out in the finals. He's the build order master, and it seems like he's relying on the same stuff, which, look, that's fine. That would be great if he was up 3-1, but he's down 1-3, right? So it's a little bit scary to play. These games are becoming more and more of a high wire act as even in that last map, like Solar barely died. By the way, just to go on that last map for a second, I don't know if we had that much time to remark on it, but I think the geography of that map lends itself to a good position play from GuMiho.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't think this map is the same story. I think it's a little bit different.
No, there is no way that Solar is going to, GuMiho is going to be able to contain Solar the same way that he did on the previous map. I think Solar is going to be able to freely take more expansions on the left side, and GuMiho can't really do the same setup where he's both defending his 3rd base and his 5th base, and from that position, exerting pressure on the future expansions of Solar and starving him out. So in that case, I'm absolutely with you. The architecture here on Solaris, the home map of Solar, absolutely favoring him in this matchup. And once again, it's almost an identical build order here from GuMiho, who's going for this very fast armory. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Reactor Widow Mines for a drop with this one. In fact, it will be Hellions instead. But still, I'm a little bit hesitant with this fast 3CZ play if GuMiho once again opts to go for this late game situation, because with the exception of Hecate, where he was able to play with the superior geography that kind of, in my opinion, just as an outsider looking in, it seems Terran favored in the late game there, because it's so hard for Solar to take those auxiliary bases. But here on Solaris, that case is not the same. It's going to be a much harder fight. And thinking back on how resilient Solar was in that late game, I'm worried for GuMiho's position unless he decides to really kick it up a notch in terms of aggression.
Well, we also want to watch for when the 4th and 5th base are taken for Solar, because that's where GuMiho has to like come in and kill those bases off immediately to stymie growth. There's going to be
turn those into Hellbats?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, we are.
When is the last time we saw the Hellbat morph into slow walk into the drones run away and don't get killed moment? Well, we've got it back over here now.
We got a little bit of a taste of it, I think, game number 2 with the 2 Hellbat drop. But
yeah.
Able to deny a little bit of mining. I think he's trying to find an opening.
So he's trying to do just what we were talking about. He wants to go for the 4th base. Oh, run!
Solar's just been so good with this queen movement pretty much all series.
So the more of a push is coming down. So this is such an important moment in this game. We need to see progress here as he's going to try to mount pressure onto the 4th base.
Yeah, more barracks now coming in for GuMiho, so it is going to be a more pressure build.
He's sending more Hellions out on the map. He's already shown he's really willing to just kind of do these funky Hellion setups to maybe out-position the player. Hellbats are funny because they're so slow that when the Hellion turns into the Hellbat, it's really hard to ever do anything micro-wise with it. So they're a lot of times better when they're incorporated with the rest of the push and you use them as damage batteries.
Yeah, they're very clunky.
Yeah.
They're like Zealots if Zealots were slower than Zealots.
Yeah.
They're kind of a funky unit to mix into these compositions. But I like it here for GuMiho, especially since Solar has been playing such a Ling-heavy style in the early game. But oh, look at this, actually bottleneck. That's a lot of damage getting done on those Lings. I wonder how many, in fact, got taken out.
That was pretty good. I guess if you can wedge him in those positions, you could force a trade that's not ideal. But we got another push coming in. He's cleaning up the creep. He's going to run back out. And so much of Terran versus Zerg leads up to a moment that's going to be happening here where either Terran can take control of the game and the Zerg starts to struggle and try to fight back like we had in the last game, or it's going to be like the first 3 games where Zerg basically gets to balloon out on the map, pave the map with creep, and start to corner the Terran.
So there is a 4th command center now coming down from GuMiho, and I want to note for a fact that the first time this series, Solar has a pretty substantial upgrade lead. He went for a very fast double evolution chamber play. His 2-2 is about a third of the way done, and infantry level 1 is just going to be completing for GuMiho. So Solar, should he start to go for some more max pressure after he's able to just kind of handle all of this aggression on his side of the map as he balloons his economy, as you said, he can start to get some real damage done with 3-3. And he's even starting his high tech in time to kind of coincide with the upgrades of 2-2 completing. So Solar really setting up for a strong late game aggression play.
Okay, so he denies that base. He's going to now try to move in here. Now, Solar was willing to give up that northern base, but it's going to be this one over here in the middle of the map that Solar completely wipes his attack out. Isolates all that, kills it. Now, what we have these 2 drop ships flying around. They're not going to get much done. So, Terran on 3 base, Zerg on 4.
GuMiho running a little bit low on steam. The low medevac count kind of coming to bite him there.
And I think that losing the 5th base up there at the top it's still worse for GuMiho because he lost most of his army down there. But the supplies are going to keep ramping up. We've got those additional 3 racks coming down along with the 4th base here at the center right at 3 o'clock.
One thing that I am concerned for GuMiho is not him taking this 4th base and defending it successfully, although that might be a risk because of Solar's upgrade advantage in the situation. Actually, the planetary not even morphing right now, so Solar's just going to move across the map. Actually, really catching GuMiho out of position. I don't know if he's anticipating this. Solar perhaps not realizing how out of position GuMiho is in fact is. Trying to retreat back home to defend. Nice mailing connections to start things off here. A lot of those Marines getting taken down, but GuMiho, he's going into the third base. Looking to find some damage. Solar on the retreat. Now it's him that's getting caught out of position here. 14 drones, in fact, going down.
Yeah, he loses quite a bit of workers, but the rest is cleaned up. And, you know, that fourth base for Terran has been landed, so it's 4 base versus 4 base. We all know Zerg always have to be 1 to 2 or more bases ahead for them to be in a healthy state. They can't stay even with the Terran. And now the fresher 5th base, or actually I think it's getting remade. I can't, okay, that is being remade. I thought I made a mistake there, but actually he is still just on 4 functional bases.
Yeah, Solar is retaking that 5th base, and GuMiho's going to try and set up here. And my main concern for GuMiho is whether or not he's actually going to be able to sustain the defense on that 5th base. It's really been, it was the thorn in his side both in Game 1 and Game 2. Oh, GuMiho, please look at this. Okay, thank God. Those Banelings got so close.
Yeah, he's got to be careful because Terran's position in the north has been wiped out. So basically, Zerg's growing north and to the west side of the map, while Terran is growing south and to the east. But if the Terran doesn't have anything that can roam around at the top of the map, then there's no counterplay. And we are getting to that point where they're both maxed out. The Zerg is getting ahead in minerals and gas now. And in fact, he's going to try to come in here at this third, hoping there's going to be, you know, an overcompensation in the south. And it looks like he's right. There's really not a lot to defend other than these tanks in the distance.
That planetary not even done morphing, so.
And he's got another small little strike force down here at the bottom.
Attack commencing again in the third base here for Solar. He's able to pull GuMiho a little bit out of position, but it's kind of a nice thing, actually, that the planetary hadn't finished morphing, because if it had, it wouldn't be able to lift off against those Banelings. Instead,
no,
GuMiho,
misclick.
Nice catch. Yeah, the pathing here on Solaris can be really tricky at times. There are a lot of different routes units might want to go. And Solar does not want to let this 5th base get up, so he's going to try and aggress again.
So he's going to just try to slam the spot. He grabs the tank, pulls it over, gets the kill.
Yeah, being able to yoink another siege tank.
He doesn't kill the command center, at least from the camera shot we saw.
Yeah, the command center is still alive. I think it might be burning down, in fact, so hopefully GuMiho is repairing that back at home as he's microing his Marines in the top left side. So we're finally able to secure that 5th base on his side of the map. Dytus Network once again coming in. Infestor is getting mixed into the Zerg army as well. Oh no!
Oh my God! Oh. Big catch! Wow, it's been a slugfest of a game. He gets those 2 kills, and he's going to beeline it right up here.
Both players taking a lot of blows. GuMiho repositioning his siege tank.
So he's going to tear down these rocks in the middle of the map. He wants to create an area where he can continue to circulate into different positions.
Oh, that Infestor gets sniped. That's a nice win there for GuMiho.
And I got to say, you know, well, hold on. Let's see how this attack goes. There's going to be another big move in here now.
Yeah, Marines and siege tanks here on the high ground, but the Blinding Clad is fantastic. Able to disable 2 of those siege tanks. Marines coming in to reinforce, but that command center is going to lift up. A lot of SCVs getting taken out, but there aren't any Banelings left, so GuMiho going to take a quite favorable trade here against the Marines, not the Marines, the Zerglings, and the Hydralisks as they retreat away, but the supplies once again in favor of Solar, man. He's been mining so much more over the past couple of minutes. He's able to remax.
Games 1 through 3 are being recreated here in Game 5. But I do think GuMiho is buttoned up a little bit tighter than those games. But he's got to be careful. The next couple moves are going to be very important to watch. And GuMiho, he has a lot of isolated tanks that are really thrown out in the front. And so Solar runs out there and kills that and runs away. And if enough of those tanks die, the whole position becomes kind of unstable here for him. So, yeah, just like that. You see these little tanks, they're way out there. If he can find them, he can kind of kill them and run back in. We've got 7 tanks now left in this. That was sneaky, but...
Well, Solar's been doing that in pretty much every single game, so GuMiho just constantly has that on the back of his mind that Nidus Canals are going to be a threat in the main base. Next one gets popped here at the third. That is out of vision of GuMiho, so he might not be quite equipped to deal with it, but most of the force here is in the front for Solar as he's once again going to attack into this expansion. Planetary is more nice spread on the Marines. That's a very efficient trade for GuMiho. And Solar, once again, is not being very cost efficient with here. Now, Lurkers are going to come here into the triangle third, but it's an orbital command, so it can just lift off. Factory and Siege Tank will likely get taken out unless GuMiho is able to lift this one as well. A lot of blows being delivered by both players. GuMiho more cost efficient on the bottom side of the map. Solar winning some trades on the top.
He's going to come in from behind over here. And he's starting to surround the position pretty well here. GuMiho has no access to the top left. I know we're mostly watching GuMiho's bases being defended, but if you look at the minimap, that's the real story here. He's trying to pop Niduses everywhere.
Solar's so active with these Nidus canals. And I love the play too, just having a couple of lurkers in them, because if those lurkers get out onto the map, it's such a thorn in the side of the Terran player. It's so hard to actually effectively deal with them. So it's paramount that GuMiho is able to get rid of those Nidus networks before they're able to pop. So they're actually going for a defensive one over here.
Okay. Another push in.
Oh, the fungal growth is massive.
He catches the medevacs.
Yeah, with a parasitic
They're
bomb
shot
too.
down.
Almost every single one goes.
Oh, that's crazy. And now he's going to come up. Can he actually get the planetary? Oh, he can get that and more.
Yeah, SCV is not able to repair the planetary expansion. So
we always got to watch the money. It's a max out Zerg again. He's getting more and more in the bank. The Terran's struggling to get enough in his pockets where he can refill and remax out. So GuMiho has to try to survive, and if he doesn't, there's no way he can recover the bases. He's already lost one. There's two more that are very tempting. Those stray tanks are going to be targeted now.
Yeah, there just isn't Marines.
The flight to safety is going to happen here. He pulls back a little bit further. Now it's like all hands on deck here. GuMiho's going back. He's trying to do everything to just reclaim the bottom right. By the way, we're not showing it on camera. South of this, the Zerg's expanded as well.
Yeah, Solar has completely consumed the left side of the map. That includes the bases at the 12 o'clock and the 6 o'clock position. So even should GuMiho be able to defend for the next couple of minutes and force an endgame scenario, Solar is going to have mine from the shared bases at the top and the bottom, and Solar, he's not done yet, comes in, is able to abduct all of the Liberators. Siege Tank's also getting blasted here as he's going to continue to push forward. Bailing's even connecting on some of the Marines, so overall a relatively cost-efficient trade there for Solar, and once again, stray Siege Tanks there at the middle of the map. GuMiho, he's down to 150 supply. I don't think he has the economy to remax at pace with Solar.
And there's this big, glaring weak spot here at the bottom right. There's this naked base at the bottom right. Positionally, it's hard to get to, but if he can ever get over there with Banelings, that's going to disappear. So right now, Solar, he knows he's so close to winning the GSL after a decade plus of playing. He's been here since the beginning. This has been his white whale. He knows he just has to get in here and uproot the position at the bottom right. And I think that everything is going to collapse for GuMiho. GuMiho, he's got a long road ahead. He's just trying to survive. He's trying to hang on. Every unit is so precious. He has to do everything he can to not lose anything. And another big blow comes in. A kill, and Solar escapes.
Yeah, Solar is being able to find value all over the map right now, and those Vipers are going to return with near max hit points. And once again, this position for GuMiho, only a handful of Siege Tanks and Liberators. And oh man, even this counterattack here in between the natural and the third base gets so many Siege Tanks, even some reinforcing ghosts. And this is going to lead to an opening, I think, at the bottom right side of the map, should Solar decide to fixate his attention over there.
Yeah, this is a great move here by Solar. It's kind of a generic position, but it's a position nonetheless. And then that means that he's going to start to mess up infrastructure over here.
Oh, wow.
This isolates the Terran from the main base. He's got to run back up here. A factory goes down. I think we've seen 2 factories killed so far.
Yeah, a lot of the production is getting taken down by GuMiho.
He kills another tank up here.
Yeah, and now GuMiho is finally able to clean this up, but look at Solar immediately pounces in the bottom right position, abducts on the Liberators, able to disable them immediately. Links and Banelings coming in, but Solar...
Okay, he says maybe not.
Yeah,
better safe than sorry. Yeah, I actually respect it.
He's playing very patiently. He knows he doesn't have just enough Banelings to kill that planetary fortress, and for Solar, this is kind of a careful situation because he doesn't have much of a bank, but oh my goodness, I didn't even catch.
No, I didn't even see that.
The Broodlord transition coming in. There are 7 Broods now on the map.
So this is the problem for Terran, is he only has one place to defend left, and it's in the bottom right, although I guess there's a fresh base here, but that's just something in the way, right? Terran can't counterattack in these moments, because if they counterattack, the Zerg just gives up as many bases as he wants to kill the one thing Terran has.
There are no ghosts on the field to snipe these Broodlords. The only anti-air right now is these Marines. The Viper is very high on energy. I don't know if GuMiho's going to be able to stop this push. The Links and Bailey's coming in the bottom right. The Planetary is getting taken out. GuMiho now on 4 bases, and Solar is so close to his first GSL championship.
Yeah, I think that GuMiho Doesn't have much left. He's going to try to counterattack, but doesn't matter when Solar has this much of the map. Solar even filling in into the bottom position here. There's literally almost no income right now for Terran. Terran's going to try to fight back, but Solar could trade out for days and days.
Ghost finally entering the field, and with some Marine support, able to take down the majority of the Broodlords, but is it going to be enough? GuMiho on 115 supply. Lings and Banelings coming in. Those are some high energy Infestors and Vipers. And now the Natural's getting ransacked by the Zerg.
I think this is it. I think we're just seeing GuMiho digest the loss, process what's happened. He got this far in a GSL, but I don't think there's any way he can even stay in the game for this much longer. Everything is falling apart.
No, the final moment's coming in. The Banelings connecting here.
That's
Blinding
it.
Cloud, GG is called. Solar is your GSL Season 3 champion.
Wow, that's just crazy. He did it. I mean, after 10 years plus of GSLs, 10 years of just getting to the top 8, he overcame all odds. He 3-0 Dark, and then he 4-1 GuMiho. Caster Park was right. The Pajama Pants did it. He is your Season 3 champion. Give it up. Man, what a crazy, crazy day it was today. I've never seen Solar play so well. I've been catching this guy my entire StarCraft 2 career, and I have never seen him play like he has now. And he's been really on top of it lately, so that says a lot.
It's a soldier of destiny this season. Almost 4,000 days since his GSL debut. He can finally hold the trophy, and no one can say he did not earn it. I mean, what a fighter from start to finish here at the GSL. A tremendous season from Solar.
Caster Park says give it up for Solar. And I believe we're going to go to the interview now.
Caster Park entering the stage.
We're going to interview our champion. It's been 10 desperate years to get this far. That took so long for you, Solar. Some players win at GSL the first time they get in. For you, it was a different story. Actually, he says 10 years, more than 10 years, he says. But now you're on top of the world. And you're going to be able to raise the trophy tonight. How do you feel? I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe I'm holding the trophy. When I walk through the studio, I see all those photos of the old champions on the wall. And I always think I wish I could be up there with them. When will I have my photos up there? And now I know I'll be one of them. I was always envious of them. You must feel so much pressure every time you're trying to perform and achieve your dream. As you become a champion tonight, you know you've finally done it. The number of times you had to wipe out GuMiho's bases in that final game was insane. When you were doing that, did you feel, now I've done it, now this is my moment, or it wasn't until the games were done? So the last map was a map named Solaris. It's weird. It's always Solaris where I end up with my final map in any match. Especially on that map, I thought, no, this is my map, I can do it. But GuMiho is still a great opponent. It was still very difficult. Solar, you're constantly playing these online matches. We all know you practice very hard. Are there any other reasons why you've been such a strong player besides that?
잘 아시겠지만 와이프가 항상 아시잖아요.
네, 알죠. 가서 힘이 되고.
Yes. My wife's always been there for me. She's been a big part of my motivation.
너무 고맙고 항상 사랑합니다.
And so she gave me the confidence I needed to win the game match. So I want to say thank you to her.
이번에는 꼭 진짜 4강 올라온 결승가를 보여줄게 하면서 정말 지고 나서 힘없이 돌아갔던 그런 상황들이 굉장히 많잖아요. 이제 드디어 여기서 우승을 차지하게 됐습니다.
When you were eliminated in the quarterfinals so many times before, you must have faced a lot of disappointment.
일단 제가
Any words you'd like to say to your wife?
오고 이제 힘들었을 텐데 이걸로나마 좀 힘든 마음을 좀 달래주고 싶고.
You moved to Korea because of me.
우승했으니까 앞으로 더 많이 트로피 가져다.
I know I didn't show the results that I wanted before. Thank you for never expressing your disappointment in me. And I'm very lucky to have you as my wife. Thank you for supporting me. I appreciate all your support.
10년 넘게 기다린 팬분들에게 감사 인사 우승자로서 한번 부탁드리겠습니다.
사실 저는
And all your fans down here.
없는 선수,
They've been following you for a decade.
최근 들어서 굉장히 저를 많이
I never think of myself as a guy that has a fan base or a big fan base.
그래가지고 진짜 응원해 주시는 분들이 너무.
But I guess I realized lately I do have a lot of people supporting me.
오늘 이렇게 직관 오셔가지고.
And I've had a lot of supportive words from the fans too. And especially today at the venue, so thank you.
팬 여러분께도 감사하다는 말씀드리겠습니다.
Yeah, he's grateful for the big cheers he hears from the fans in the venue.
고병재 선수와도 이야기 나눠보는 시간을 갖도록 하겠습니다. 오늘 정말 힘겹게 마지막까지 모든 것 쏟아부으면서.
All right, let's do an interview with the runner-up.
자, 결승 무대에 6년 만에 올라와서
GuMiho, you're with us till the very end.
정말 힘든 여정이었거든요.
It's been your first GSL final in 6 years,
어떤 부분을 느끼셨는지 한 말씀 부탁드리겠습니다.
and you faced a great opponent today. Any words you want to say? Firstly, I've never had any easy matchups. All my matchups are tough. Even though I lost tonight. I worked really hard. Put a lot of effort. I also want to say congratulations to Solar for his championship.
이제 계속해서 도전할 거잖아요. 멋진 활약 기대하도록 하겠습니다. 그리고 강민 선수, 진짜 저는 약간 감동스러운 시즌인 게 수많은 분들이 아프리카 TV를 통해서 이 발동성 후원을 통해서요. 아니 그 누적 금액이요 5천만 원이 넘었어요.
1,000만 원이요?
5천만 원이요.
Have you seen the donation when it's totaled at on the Patreon? $40,000 US. Can you believe the fans have supported the show that much?
사랑의 메시지 계속 나왔거든요. 그분들에게 선수단을 대표해서 한 말씀 부탁드리겠습니다.
사실 선수들이 진짜
As a representative of the GSL players and the fans at the front of the prize pool, what would you say?
좀 많이 힘들어서 실제로 게임을 많이 덜하는 경우도 있고 게임을 그만둔 선수들도 있지만 여러분들이 이렇게 계속 후원해 주셔가지고 저 같은
Early this year, we weren't really sure the state of GSL and what it was going to be like.
GSL 무대에 계속 도전할 수 있는 것 같고요.
We were worried players would lose their motivation. Or
정말 다 소중한 돈이라고 생각하고 앞으로도
after we got an audience back in the studio and the support of the fans, we've been able to do it.
대표님도 와서 계세요.
So we really want to say thank you very much.
바쁘신데도 불구하고요. 대표님도 좀
Not only in Korea but overseas, everywhere.
대표님 보고
Thank you.
계시다면 내년에도 꼭 정말 이렇게 열성적으로 계속
If the Africa TV CEO is watching
이런
this,
분들을 봐서라도 꼭 내년에 리그 열어주셨으면 좋겠습니다.
keep GSL alive
네, 다시 한번
and keep the league alive next year too, so we can play in GSL again. All right, so Cash Park says we're going to go to the award ceremony. So we're getting Solar. Nope, nope, never mind. Solar's going to go on the other side of the stage.
As walking off stage.
Trying to play-by-play this. Okay, it's time for the big checks. We have many big checks upstairs.
Absolutely.
We got to get rid of these big checks. We've got Mr. Che here, the executive director here. He'll be giving the award for the runner-up. So they're going to bring up Cloud9 GuMiho.
Really a tremendous debut on his team. Second place in the hardest tournament in the world. Great way to finish what's been an incredible year for him. Oh, look at that pretty bouquet.
Look at all those flowers. God, gamers love flowers.
It's what we really
That's
play
what we
for.
really, yeah.
We just want the flowers.
When the games are done, I
trophy.
go home and water my garden immediately. So congratulations to GuMiho. What an unusual finals, by the way.
A unique one.
Yeah, you just, a lot of times it's like, oh, it's Dark versus maybe an unusual player. I guess not unusual is the right word, but somebody you don't expect in the finals. Or Maru. But this was a very unique one.
Yeah, one of the more unique GSLs we've ever had, I think, in terms of results.
Yeah, I'd say so. And I'd say a very memorable one, even though it was not, it didn't go to Game 7, but you don't need every game to be played to go to, an amazing series. So now we're going to be bringing Solar out. And I want to know if we're ever going to see him not in these pajama pants now.
I mean,
oh, hold on. We're not bringing him out. We're going to bring out one of our CEOs.
Co-CEO of Africa TV.
멋진 대결을 펼쳤습니다. 이번 시즌 지켜봐 주면서 힘이 되셨는데요. 오늘 와주신 분들에게 한 말씀 부탁드리겠습니다.
네, 매 시즌마다 이렇게
Casper Parks, we had an amazing season 3 finals. Any words?
현장에도 항상 또 이렇게
I appreciate all the GSL players and all the great games they gave us.
올 한 해 동안 또 이렇게 후원해 주신 하식스한테도 너무 감사드리고요. 저희뿐만이 아니라
I recognize many of you guys who've been coming to the GSL for years now. Not only Korea, but from all over the world. I want to say, we want to extend our thanks to you.
자, 이제 대망의 우승 시상을 진행하도록 하겠습니다. 2023 하식 GSL 시즌 3 대망의 우승 10년 만에.
All right, now we're bringing the champion out. Solar. Sparks says, give it up for Solar, our champion.
First ever GSL title, and well earned. 3-0 over Dark, 4-1 over GuMiho. I've never seen Solar play this well in my life.
It's so funny. I'm so familiar with Solar because he's obviously been one of the best players, but he was never really at the top. He was always playing second fiddle to these other guys. And now he's done it. And I like watching the audience for just a split-second panic as we fire those cannons in there.
It's like a jump scare for me too, man.
Yeah.
Never gets old. What a tremendous year.
Thank you so much for joining us, for this finals, for this year, for the, 12, 13 years that we've had GSL on. This has been a real treat. And I am optimistic about the future as well here. So I believe we're just having Castor Park close out the show. But first, we're going to have a proper goodbye. Wait for it. There it is. See?
It's us.
You got to trust me.
We know how this show
We know how it ends.
Yeah, but really a fantastic day, a fantastic GSL, a GSL of upsets, unexpected results. Maru, the first player eliminated. We were thinking maybe it's Dark's turn, maybe it's Hero's turn, maybe Cure's. But instead it's
Classic.
GuMiho and Solar who make it all the way to the finals.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
Well, look, I mean, it's been another great season. Guys, thank you so much for sticking with us. I look forward to seeing you all next year. State, you've done an excellent job. I keep saying it, but everybody keeps saying you're getting better and better. And I know you had some big shoes to fill, so thank you so much for joining me for another season. And any closing thoughts before we end this show?
Well, we have GSL next year, man. I mean, this is the best tournament in the world, and life would not be the same without it.
We love you guys. Thank you for watching. Take care, and have an amazing morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are.
I'm there to hold the world up whenever you fall. I got this, yeah, I got this. And if you got a problem, you know who to call. I got this, and I want it all.
저는 2018년이었던 것 같은데요. 그냥 그 해가 제일 자랑스러웠던 것 같아요. WSG 시작이었는데 그때 3연속 우승하고 금메달도 그때 따고 그러니까 그 이후로 다 잘 됐어요.
I don't really think about that a lot, like one specific moment. For StarCraft, it would definitely be winning IEM Pyeongchang. I had come close many times to winning a big tournament, but I never did, and I really wanted to before I was done with StarCraft, so I was definitely very happy about that at the time.
제일 최근 일인 그래도 제가 GSL 결승에서 경기했을 때 좀 그런 기분을 많이 느꼈어요.
2012년도 생각나지 않아요?
그렇긴 한데 이제 너무 오래돼가지고 기억도 안 나요, 사실.
제가 처음 GSL에 뚫었을 때 그때가 좀 더 뭔가 저한테 되게 뜻깊고 그런 순간이었던 것 같아요. 그 경기가 더 뜻깊었던 것 같아요.
GSL 우승했을 때가 제일 부르기도 했고 믿기지 않았던 것 같아요.
20대 초반 때 성격이 좀 제일 활발하고 학교에서도 좀 재밌게 잘 지냈거든요. 요즘은 좀 우중충한 느낌이 있어서 그때가 좀 찬란했던 것 같아요.
제가 우승할 때 시즌이죠. 민수 이기고 우승하고 그때 막 MLG도 우승하고 GSL도 날아다니고 뭐 해외 대회도 너무 많이 갔다 오고 뭐 홍보대사 뭐 그런 게 제일 찬란했던 시기가 아닐까.
두 개 있는데 GSL 우승했을 때, 블리즈컨 우승했을 때 딱 우승 기분이에요. 저는 지금도 VOD 가끔가다 보고 있고 그 VOD 게임 영상으로 보면 좀 현장감이 잘 안 느껴가지고 직캠 같은 거 올라온 게 있더라고요. 그런 것도 보고 블리즈컨보다 GSL 처음 우승했을 때가 더 기억에 남는 것 같아요. 둘 다 남긴 하는데 완전 생각지도 못하는 우승이었어가지고 이거 심지어 복귀 막 2년 3개월 만에 복귀하는 그거였으니까 그때 진짜 다 기억나요. 막 음악 감독님이 막 제가 노래 어레인지 해주는 것도 기억나고 다 기억나죠. 기가 막혔죠. 타짜님. 저 가끔 보는데 판짜.
연기를 잘한다니까.
제가 칭찬을 좀 많이 받았어요.
Best StarCraft moment is maybe beating Ricardo in Home Story Cup. That was a good win for me.
그래도 뭐 스타트 프로게이머 할 때가 가장 좀 찬란했던 것 같아요. 지금까지도 좀 이제 거의 다 꺼져가긴 하지만 그래도 찬란하게 걸어왔다 생각합니다.
가장 찬란했던 순간? 그래도 오브라면 2017년 우승했었죠.
제 자신이 빛났던 순간이요? 중학교 때. 그때가 좀 한 귀여움 했었어가지고 리즈였던 것 같아요. 뭐 동네 어딜 가도 아 이쁘다 소리 듣고 막 그랬던 시절이었던 것 같아요. 그때는 진짜였어요. 완전 조그맣고 막 그랬어가지고.
아무래도 우승했을 때가 GSL이랑 스타리그랑 우승했을 때가 정말 그 기분을 다시 느끼고 싶을 정도로 너무 좋더라고요. 근데 못 느껴본 지 몇 년 됐네요.
저도 그때 같은데요? 우승할 때? 19년도에 IEM 우승할 때? 그때 좀 시간이 좀 지났는데도 아직도 생생하게 기억이 나요. 그 순간이.
변호는 자기가 첫 GSL 우승한 거랑 블리즈컨 우승한 거를 아직도 부연대로 돌려본다고 하거든요.
한 3년 전에 본 것 같은데.
저는 지금이라고 생각합니다. 뭔가 예전에 비해서 전체적으로 일도 좀 잘 풀리는 것 같고 일상생활에서도 나름 만족스럽고 뭐 딱히 안 되는 일이 없어서
저는 사실 그런 순간들이 저는 지금도 되게 빛나고 찬란하다고 생각을 하거든요. 이런 질문 받으면 보통 제가 우승했을 때나 뭐 좀 잘했던 순간들을 떠올리는 경우가 많겠지만은 저는 근데 지금도 되게 행복하고 잘 살고 있어서 저는 지금이 좋아요.